Chapter 16. That last day on Earth kept spinning in my head, over and over again, like a broken record player. I was torn between two feelings, regret and anger. Because I had ignored all of the warning signs, something feeling off about that girl. I had been lonely, and wanted to feel something again, anything. I wanted to be distracted from the heartache, my mom, my dad. It was a harsh reality I had to live with for 2 long years. I was angry as hell. Misery loved company, this feeling of death spreading across me, leaving me on the edge of that cliff while I looked down into its shadowy abyss. I didn't want to fall through, but it was pulling me in. Luckily for me, I had someone else pulling me from the other side, trying to bring me back.
Lucian.
She still sounded like an angel. When I woke, it felt like a bucket of ice-cold water had splashed me. I shot up from Kai's lap, clenching my arm against my chest with a hard gasp. My heart dropped inside my stomach, where suddenly all of my senses hit me at once. Where the hell was I? What happened? My blurry vision soon adjusted, realizing that we were in a foreign bed, in a room that looked like a hotel's. The place was on the dark side, with only 2 dim nightstand lights on, where the curtains barely forfeited any moonlight. Wait, moonlight? How long had I been out for?
Lucian, you're finally awake,
Kai said, my head turning to her in her relieved smile. Kai. I could barely whisper, my eyes growing wide with excitement. Holy shit, she was okay. Crap, the last thing I remembered was, wait.
Your arm, I managed to bring it back. The skin is still a bit red, but in a few hours, it will look less tender,
she confirmed.
I'm sorry I couldn't heal it all the way. I didn't want to tap into my light repertoire just in case we...
I didn't care about all of that, snatching Kai mid-sentence into my arms and never letting go. I grabbed onto her tightly, trying to hold back my tears while my hand held the back of her head against my chest. You scared the crap out of me, Kai, I confessed, Kai taking me into her arms. I could feel her fist closing up, grabbing the clothes on my back.
You did too, Lucian.
Her soft voice trembled. I don't want you doing that again. I don't think my heart could take any more of that fearless bullshit. I inched away from her gently. Promise me. She scrunched her face up at me, clearly disagreeing. Come on, Kai, we are a team. And as a team, we need to do better than that. I got lucky. I had no idea I was going to blow up like that.
Your light powers, they came at a perfect time.
I let out a sigh of relief. I have no idea how, though.
Mira was right. You've always had the light inside you. Maybe being here under Ligera's sun helped you tap into it. Here,
she said. Kai must have opened up my stats because all of a sudden, I could see a faded version on my end. Triggered stats. Name, Lucian Reef. Race, Human Ligerian. Class, Kiran's Heir. Role, NA. Level, 17. Experience, 855 17,000. Points to be allocated, 85. Agility, 4. Brawn, 5. Charisma, 48. Core range, searching. Health, 1640 1700. Light energy, searching. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, backbreaker unarmed. Weapon EXP, 25. Weapons durability, 32 100. Skills. Light classes learned, none. Light enabled abilities, weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items. Hot damn. I said with a proud smile on me. I bumped up from level 1 to level 17. And these points.
Standard for beating a shadow elf?
Kai clarified before terminating it.
And since you defeated an elf that would have required group effort, you increased substantially. By default, you get between 4 and 5 points for every level you surpass. This gradient increases the more you level up. I believe those 3 question marks for your light energy are currently placeholders until we visit the Mother Spirit, so she could properly awaken your powers.
Hell, me tapping into my light felt like a fluke. I didn't think it would affect my stats.
You expunged that behemoth's shadow energy, so of course it would.
She grinned.
And you did a great job, Lucian. Especially seeing that you don't even have a core range value. You have your father's light's core to thank for your survival. That light output would have easily killed you.
Damn, I wasn't even thinking about doing all of that, I sighed. Kai, when that shadow elf got a hold of you, I just lost it. Something in me broke, and then suddenly the thought of losing you became so incredibly painful. I started burning up. Hell, I have no words for it. She froze. I don't know what I'd do with myself if I lost you, Kai.
Lucian,
She chirped, but then she recanted, that energy she had when she said my name lowering a few deciliters. Kai looked at me like she was afraid, those violet eyes in near tears. She bit her lip, the light warrior riddled with nervousness. Before she finally snapped out of it, blurting out between her quaking lips.
I love you.
I never knew 3 words could sound so magical. For a second I felt displaced. I didn't expect her to tell me such a thing, especially after our last intimate encounter.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hold it in much longer. I want you, light god. And I know you probably don't feel the same way as I.
I wanted to shut her up for Christ's sake, before she started lying to my face. I wasn't going to mess up this time and let her slip away from me. I was ready to show her just how much I loved her back. I leaned in and kissed those fragile little worries away, making sure I got the message across. Those soft full lips broke me, sending heat in all the right places. I felt like kissing her again was long overdue, this moment anything but a reward for her saving my ass for the second time. I was more than willing to give my life to save this girl. And even if it felt like I'd just met her, we connected in ways I'd never connected with anyone before. Kai was more than a quest partner or some sidekick, and I was determined to show her that she was more than just a baby maker, too. The sun spirit was evil for this one. Fuck the rules. While she was more concerned about me breeding her, I wanted to make love to my light warrior, dropping her back against the bed with that passionate kiss, Kai's lips starting to tremble in my mouth. She was getting nervous, and I got why. But back on Earth, I was just some regular guy, no one special. She didn't see it that way though, and having sex with a demigod was a big thing. I wanted to put her at ease, undressing my top first, flinging my gear aside before I gave her the gun show. That blush on her face was on point, Kai getting giddy behind that fist over her mouth. You like what you see? I teased in a whisper.
Lucian.
I don't want you to make a big deal about me, you know? Don't think about what the sun spirit wants, don't think about what I am. And please, don't think about this as me trying to breed you.
Okay, but this is my...
She hesitated, her eyes shying away from me. This is your what? Kai sat back up on the bed, having trouble articulating her words.
This is my first time.
She shamefully admitted. Her first time? Didn't she say she was over 200 years old?
I was raised as a light warrior. There was no room for building relationships outside of the one I was to have with my army. And even then, it was strictly professional.
Well, to be fair, that explained a lot about her personality. All work, no play, makes for a mundane lifestyle. She was stripped of her adolescent years, built from the ground up as a soldier, or a robot. I couldn't fathom how healthy that could have been, but it made her feel like she was under the spotlight now, expected to perform. It was my responsibility to ease her into the transition, while keeping my roughness during sex in check. Kai was a virgin, but a step further than that. To be honest, for a girl who'd never locked lips with anyone before, she was a pretty good kisser. I wanted to make her feel comfortable during the process and think of a way to not intimidate her. Maybe we could make sex fun for the both of us? So I gauged her comfort level with me, taking her hand over to my chest, Kai practically falling over my body from the tug. I think she was confused with my intentions, but I wouldn't brush her off. I wanted her to have her skin against mine and see if all of that shaking would go away. I won't rush you into anything you're not ready for, Kai, I said with a smile. I'd feel guilty for it, so I wanted to see how comfortable you were with touching me when I'm topless first. She bit her lip.
You feel nice.
She complimented, this time confidently running her fingertips down my chest, and through every groove of my abs.
And hard.
Yeah, you can say that again. I have to ask myself though, that day when I saw you naked, how did you figure we'd fuck? She looked at me shocked, Kai pulling away from me quickly.
What?
When you'd asked me if I was there to breed you. She shied away again, and I felt like I might have undone something between us with that question. So I pulled her back, Kai looking at me like I'd asked her a hard question. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it.
No, it's okay. It's just, the way I understood breeding is that there isn't much for a woman to do in the process. We simply open ourselves for the man's seed.
Heh, that's my fault for not knowing any better. No, I'd never do that to you, Kai, I said, cupping her chin and turning her bashful face toward me. You're not a baby farm. What I want to do is make love to you, and that's completely different than Ligera's definition of breeding.
I don't know how to do that.
It's okay. It'll come naturally. She blushed at me. So, maybe we can skip all of this trying to get comfortable with my body, because you're making me really horny right now. I confessed. This light god caved in, the way Kai was looking at me had all the blood rushing between my legs. There was something extra exciting about having sex with a 200-year-old virgin, but this was something else entirely. I was Kai's first everything, and a part of me felt unleashed from that arousing fact. It was my job to show her a good time, and I didn't want to waste much more of it with groping. I'd only be teasing myself, taking Kai's hand down my manhood, where she could feel my girth pressed up against the seams of my trousers. You feel that? I groaned, leaning back a few degrees into the bed with my arm supporting me. I want you to take it. Her eyes lit up, and I could hear her heartbeat pounding against her chest. Kai was nervous, but she did as she was told, with a little help. My hand helped her grab my junk and jerk it through my pants, the gentle strokes making her face beat red. I could tell she was squirming inside, and between her folded legs, she started growing with heat. The smell was something else, Kai seconds away from bringing the beast out of me. Good girl, I breathed, letting her jerk me on her own now. I was falling into my own trap, being the typical alpha in bed. But I couldn't help it, Kai was making it so easy. She went inside my closet and pulled out my biggest fetish, so trying not to lose myself in the fun was going to be super hard to do. Take it out, Kai. It's yours, after all. My voice was smooth and raunchy, Kai not questioning me one bit. Again, the girl did as she was told. She knew how to follow directions. She unbuckled my belt and slipped that bad boy out. The look in her curious eyes, as if she were unwrapping a Christmas present. She unzipped my pants and pulled my boxers down, letting my balls sit along the rim while she unflopped my hard-on.
Lucian.
Her voice shook with a gasp. She was impressed. And she was ready to show me how much she appreciated my size, pinning her hair behind her ear and leaning her open mouth toward my cock. My jaw dropped, Kai acting out on her own. I hadn't told her to suck me off, but she did, that first touch of her lips making my balls tight. Shit, Kai. I tilted my head back when her mouth went diving. She had incredible range for a virgin, this light warrior making me lose my breath as she introduced my cock with her throat. Her head bobbed up and down, taking my girth in like a pro. Now I was impressed, grabbing her by the back of her head, my fingers interlaced with her silky ivory hair. That's it. Just like that. Ugh, Kai. You feel so fucking good, I gritted, my hips gyrating to her deep wet strokes. I explored the cavity of her mouth like I was looking for gold, Kai being such a good sport about it while her soft fingers played with my balls. I could tell I was getting her acclimated to the idea of being open with me, my light warrior already having me bust a hot nut in her mouth. It came without warning, the moment I started dropping her head faster down my dick, it was a wrap for all parties involved. I might have given her too much though, Kai pulling her head up, where I got a clear shot of the mess I'd made on her face. And it was fucking hot. Whoa. Did she swallow the rest of it? I needed a second, my cock still throbbing from the finish. I gasped a hard breath, taking my cock and squeezing the rest of it out while white sauce drooled all over her chin. What a trooper. Fuck, Kai. You sure you've never done this before? I chuckled, then reached over to the nightstand to give her some tissues. Here. I wiped her face down, and her tits, my cum dripping down those perfect hills sitting in her armor. That's when Kai finally broke into a confident smile, looking up to me mesmerized.
That was fun,
she admitted. Her higher voice was a show and tell, the light warrior experiencing foreplay for the first time. I could tell she enjoyed me and was waiting for more. My thumb slipped between my hips and the rim of my pants, where I finally stripped down to my birthday suit for her. We don't have to stop there, I whispered. We still have so much ground to cover. She looked at me like a full course meal, not making it subtle at all as she gawked at my nakedness. Her jaw was on the floor, my light warrior appreciating her god. But I wanted to do a bit of appreciating too, bringing myself at the head of the bed, my back against the tower of pillows. Take off your clothes for me, I instructed her in a lewd whisper, Kai crawling between my legs, positioning herself to give me a strip show. She was slow with it, her pacing just the right speed for me to hug every curve of her body with my hungry eyes. Once she got down to her bra and panties, I reeled her in, her soft breasts smacking my chin when I leaned her on me. I took one good sniff, that smell between her legs making my cock throb. You're wet, I growled, nibbling along her chin, craving her taste.
Wet?
Yeah, Down there, I said, slipping my fingers along the top of her panties, giving it a nice tug. I went down, taking what I wanted. My 2 fingers grazed along her clit, Kai immediately tightening up on me when I applied a little pressure. She panted, her voice shattering. Her hand gripped my shoulder hard, while her other hand grabbed me by my wrist. She was afraid of being pleasured, and I wanted to put that fear to rest, diving between her legs further, where I struck that steamy pot of gold. She moaned, arching her back, her legs starting to quake. I gave her a few slow strokes, her pussy juices coating my fingers nicely. How does that feel? I grunted, her tight sex squeezing my fingers getting me all revved up again. If it felt that good around my 2 fingers, I could only imagine how great it would feel around my hard cock.
Lucian, please.
She begged, but her hips kept grinding against my fingers. Looked like she learned the bedroom lingo rather quickly, and I didn't break my speed, sinking into her wet box even further. Shit, she was starting to buckle down on me. I'd be honest, I didn't want her having an orgasm with my fingers. Call me selfish. So I pulled out, letting her take a breath, my wrinkled fingers coming out of the entire ordeal caked with cunt juice. Geez, Kai, I chuckled, then cleaned my pointer finger off with my tongue. What a taste. She cringed.
Lucian.
What? It's Mother Nature's secret nectar. And very tangy too, if I might add.
You can't.
So unfair, you can taste me, but I can't taste you. Unless, you're jealous. I grinned devilishly. Why don't you have a taste? It's amazing. My other hand squeezed her mouth open, and I slipped my middle finger inside her lips. She was hesitant at first, but she trusted my word, suckling on her juices, the sight of her slobbering on my finger taking me for a ride. Wow, that's kinky, I growled, Kai open to anything I asked her to do. And she kept sucking on my finger too, making my face heat up. Okay, now you're just teasing me, I chuckled, pulling out my finger, that sexy look on her face still lingering there. I'll take it you're ready for me, huh? Enough with the foreplay. I hooked my finger in between her bra, letting those yummy tits of hers fly. They had a nice bounce to them, Kai leaning into me, cupping my face with her sticky hands. She was hungry, I could tell behind those exotic carnal eyes of hers. She'd finally opened up to me and invited me in, and I was ready to take this exclusive invitation seriously. Our lips went at it, Kai already moaning in my mouth. We were like a bonfire ready to explode, all of that pent-up sexual frustration about to burst. Kai's tongue wouldn't let me breathe, and she was vigorous about it, to where her hips started to grind hard against my junk. Sweet mercy. That 200-year drought needed quenching, and I was a happy candidate for it. My hands moved down to her hips, appreciating her beautiful tight waist, down to her heart-shaped ass. I cupped those cheeks, kneading them mercilessly. Shit, Kai was getting me so hot and bothered that I accidentally forgot my strength and tore right through that flimsy underwear of hers. Kai, you feel so good. I purred, in between that break her lips allowed me. I gave her a firm slap on her ass, Kai gasping in my breath, before I took a moment to absorb that sex-drunk look in her eyes. Hell, she was beautiful all around. I was done waiting, ready to claim my light warrior. I drew her back a few inches, noticing Kai's lips red from all of that hard making out. Her chest was heaving, her hands falling behind her and against my knees where she anchored herself. Come on, saddle up, Kai. Don't be shy, I chuckled. Ride me like a stallion. I yanked the torn panties between us, my dick now leaning against her puckered pussy. What a lovely sight. You're not going to make me do all the work, are you? We aren't breeding, remember? I teased. But Kai kept looking at it like I was intimidating her.
It's big, Lucian.
It'll fit, I reassured her. I promise, I won't break you. I winked. Here, let me help. I guided her, taking her by the waist, letting her body take in my cock. Kai grabbed onto my shoulders while I adjusted, her grip on me getting tighter, and I wasn't talking about her hands. Kai, you need to relax your muscles, or I'll never get in, I laughed.
I'm trying.
Tightening up will make it worse. I'll guide us there, just relax, and trust me. She took a breath in and a breath out, Kai letting her body fall loose. Once she did that, it was easier to slip through that untouched sex of hers, my head finally breaking through her walls. Yeah, that's it. Just like that. I moaned, Kai suddenly tightening her body on me again.
Lucian, it hurts.
She begged. And not for long, Kai. Don't move, please, ugh.
Lucian,
she cried, Kai, dropping her chest into mine, and I swear she was trying to get me in another headlock. Her abrupt motion made me slip inside, Kai's hips falling into me fast, where a loud yelp escaped her lips, followed by a moan of pleasure and relief. Shit. I rolled my eyes back, her sex choking my cock hard. Holy Virgin Mary. This sex was sinful on all levels. I had no idea Kai could feel this fucking good. She moaned in my ear for every stroke, my hips clashing into her incredibly tight sex. She was panting, bouncing along with me. There were no complaints on her end, my sighs ripping through her with no remorse. I had those ass cheeks playing hopscotch on my thighs, her heated pussy walls starting a fire up and down my shaft. It would only be seconds now before I busted another nut, letting Kai's walls close in on me tight. Not every girl could say that a god took their virginity, and not every girl could say that a light god gave them their first fucking orgasm. Kai gave me a wall-shattering cry through my ears, her body clenching up, convulsing. I looked up at her proudly, that orgasm of hers putting a smile on my face before I gripped her down and went at it like a jackhammer. Shit, I wanted my finish too, my cum ready to invade those velvety walls. I had her taking every inch, my balls getting tight, my thighs did too. I held her in place, making sure her guts had every last drop, grunting and grinding my teeth after the best sex I'd ever had. That rush of adrenaline caught me at the base of my shaft, our juices making a sticky sex cocktail together as my meat throbbed violently inside her. I was covered with sweat once I broke through her, shooting my kids inside the tuck of her womb. Finally, a moment to breathe. I showered her breasts with kisses, trying to put the visibly exhausted Kai at ease. She took a second to recompose herself as well, Kai shaking all over, the way she let go of me and collapsed on the bed, a show of my stamina in bed. It was cute, her tuckered out looking even sexier, glistening in sweat. I got up on my fours and straddled her body with mine, keeping her warm. With her hair cascaded on the bed, her chest heaving, and her eyes struggling to stay awake, I safely deduced it was time for bed, unplugging my cock from between her legs, watching the river flow from the creek.
Lucian. That was...
She whispered, her eyes shutting on me. Well, I guess it's safe to say you won't be in for a round two. She snapped those eyes wide open, getting enough strength to sit up on the bed. Ha, I'm just messing with you, Kai, I teased. I can see that you're tuckered out. With that, I scooped her up underneath her legs, making my way off the bed before she stopped me.
Where are you going?
Her fleeting voice asked. To the bathroom. I smiled. We can wash up together.
How about later?
She suggested.
In an hour. If I lay down, I'd have a higher chance of getting pregnant.
My eyes softened on her. Kai.
It's okay, Lucian.
She smiled sweetly.
I want to have your babies. I won't stop being a warrior. I can be both a mother and a protector of my country.
She said, combing her fingers along my face.
I'd be honored to have your child. That's how much I care for you, Lucian.
She fell asleep in my arms, leaving me with that last remark. And while I couldn't see myself slowing her down in her quest of protection, I could see myself being with her for the rest of my life. Chapter 17. Last night's sex hit the spot. I'd knocked out like a boar. I couldn't say that I remember getting up after that first hour, sleeping with Kai in my arms throughout the entire night. And once the sun was out, Kai stirred me awake with a gentle kiss on my forehead, similar to the first one she gave me when we first met.
Morning, Lucian.
She chimed, that smile on her sheer perfection. Morning, beautiful. I smiled, before I took her by surprise, snatching her into my chest and play wrestling with her on the bed. She was giggling all over as we tumbled and rolled, Kai not even putting up a fight. She was too giddy, grabbing onto me instead, until I landed back on my back with her on top, filled with energy.
You're full of strength this morning,
she observed. I have you to thank for that. You knocked me out last night. Now I'm well rested.
Me too, but I'm also sticky.
She chuckled. You dirty little girl, I growled. Ready to take that shower together?
No, I want to spend more time with you in bed.
Oh? Have enough energy for a round two now?
No, not that.
She purred, her eyes latched on my lips.
I just want to spend time with you, Lucian. I don't want to leave.
Heh, while that sounds good, we have a mother spirit to visit.
I know.
We'd be putting lives at stake the longer we linger.
I know.
Her voice sulked. Don't worry. We can do this again once the storm clears out, I whispered seductively, my hands selfishly kneading her butt. You have such a soft fat ass. She giggled.
And it's all yours.
Yeah? Well, I must be the luckiest guy in all of Ligera, I purred. Let me stop, I'm getting myself all hard again, I panted.
Please, don't.
Kai sang, giving me lewd eyes. I gasped. Kai, since when were you an enabler?
Ever since you decided to stick your penis inside me.
I laughed. It sounds so dirty when you say that word. Say it again. She smiled sweetly.
Penis.
Oh, Kai. We laughed, Kai giving me a sweet kiss on my lips. And then the mood in the room changed, Kai giving me a serious front.
So, where do we go from here, Lucian?
What do you mean?
I can't break the Sun Spirit's rules.
I sighed. There weren't any repercussions when we started having feelings for each other. Why worry? There's nothing professional about it anymore.
But, it's wrong. It's against everything I stand for. I'd be breaking my oath.
So let's not put a label on it, I suggested. It's not going to change the fact that I care for you.
No. Label?
She repeated, taking a seat on my crotch.
Meaning, we act as if nothing had happened?
Not exactly.
But how else will this work?
I grunted, trying to find a solution that would satisfy her. Well, how about this? How about if anyone asks, I'll tell them you're just obeying the law of the sun. You'll be my cum-pot. She gasped.
That sounds dirty.
Or breeder. Your only purpose in life is to make me babies, I teased. There, does that sound better?
Yes.
She beamed, but I was just messing with her. Heck, I didn't expect her to accept that title. Maybe I should have just stuck with my little cum-pot instead and make her disagree with me. Either way, I guess there was no making Kai see the ridiculousness of these stupid sun god rules. We wanted each other, and no amount of hiding that in front of people would change that fact. But as long as she was happy, and I could have her by my side, it really didn't matter, did it? We took that long-deserved shower, where I got to put my hands on wet Kai. No shame in having a little shower sex before we headed out, right? After that, we got dressed, ate some of Myra's snacks, and prepared to hit the road again.
Are you going to allocate your points?
Kai asked me as she slipped her quiver on. Oh, right. I thought the words to open up my panel, trigger self-stats. I might have been a bit frivolous with the allocation, but I think my decisions were top-notch. Triggered self-stats. Name, Lucian Reef. Race, Human Ligerian. Class, Kieran's heir. Role, NA. Level, 17. Experience, 855 17,000. Points to be allocated, 0. Agility, 47. Brawn, 47. Charisma, 48. Core range, searching. Health, 1700. Light energy, searching. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, backbreaker armed. Weapon EXP, 25. Weapons durability, 32-100. Skills. Light classes learned, none. Light enabled abilities, weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items.
You had 85 points, and you allocated them between brawn and agility?
Kai asked me, obviously looking at my stats as well.
What about your core range?
Well, I figured I don't really need to focus on that now, seeing as you mentioned my lights core saved my ass back there from burning out from too much light output.
You still need your core range, in case you don't have the pendant with you.
I'm not planning on losing it anytime soon.
Lucian, you passed out from that last output.
I thought I passed out from a lack of blood.
It was from both. Trust me, focus on building your range as well.
I smiled. All right. You know best, light warrior. The next time I get points, I'm going to feed that range. Deal? She nodded with a smile. Next scene. The band was back on the road again, in merrier spirits. I followed Kai down more forest land where the thick foliage practically blocked the sun with its tall, towering trees, the likes of which I'd never seen before on Earth. It was giving me near-death experience vibes, but I wouldn't let that deter me. I was over that, telling myself that I'd never let a shadow elf catch me off guard again.
We are getting closer now. I expect maybe 3 more minutes.
Kai informed me. What do I tell the Mother Spirit? I questioned with no context. Like, I managed to trigger my mana, my light. Is she going to permanently awaken it or something? I chuckled. Do I ask her for enlightenment?
Well, unless you can do it again, you need her guidance. And hopefully, she will steer you the right way. As for what she will do exactly, I cannot say. It's at her discretion.
Do it again, huh? I scratched at my chin, thinking about how I could manage another light show. I wouldn't even know where to start. It felt like a one-time thing, unless I found Kai in danger again. I wouldn't want to even think about that extreme. I guess I would have to wait to see what she said. Hopefully she could see the same power in me that Mira had, so I could start saving the people of Ligera.
We are here,
Kai said, making a sharp stop. I looked to my left and right, not much of anything to really see. I peeled my eyes wide, trying to see if I was missing something in plain sight, but I couldn't decipher this code. Was she invisible?
We head south.
South? I asked, looking down at her.
Yes.
Kai took an additional few steps forward and lined her hand with the dirt. All of a sudden, the grass started to melt, the waves of heat morphing the air between her hand and the turf. Her powers started scraping the ground, and a light breeze brushed all the debris away to reveal this huge engraved coin on the earth. Once she was finished unmasking the coin, I walked to her, noticing that this coin was a lot bigger up close. It had the face of a round chubby-faced woman made out of stone and covered in moss. It was safe to assume that this was where the mother spirit was hiding, underneath the ground, closer to Ligera's core. Made sense.
Only the pure of heart can open this seal. It will sense the presence of any living thing around it, and all must stand on the seal before it opens. We need its permission, Lucian. If it doesn't find you worthy, none of us will be able to pass and visit the Zemia temple.
How pure are we talking? I jested. Seriously though, I didn't think I'd be granted access to this sub-temple. I wasn't pure at heart, at least, not by the textbook definition. But I guess only she could decide who was worthy and who wasn't. So I took one big gulp and brushed the nerves away, following Kai onto that big coin door. I felt like an abracadabra was in order. But I was too nervous to push out jokes, waiting on that huge piece of stone for some movement. And nothing. Shit.
Just wait,
Kai replied. You think she will hold what we did last night against us? I whispered over Kai's shoulder cheekily. There was nothing pure about that.
Lucian,
She cooed, cupping her red cheeks from my raunchy remark.
There is nothing wrong with the act of bringing life into our world.
Ah, you're right, I said, slipping my arms underneath hers and leaning my chin over her shoulder. But you were pretty filthy in bed, Kai.
I only did what you told me, Lucian.
She countered coyly. So we are both in the wrong, huh?
Sun God, we must act professional before the eyes of Shinra.
She warned me. Oh, right. No PDA, because you're just my breeder, right? I snorted. Well, guess what? No one's watching.
God is,
She said with a silly smile on her face. I couldn't tell if she was serious or not, the sarcastic Kai card usually popping in at random times. So I rolled with it, with a greedy smile on my face. Pull that God is watching card on me again, and I won't hesitate to smack that ass in public. Real public. She giggled, and then sure enough, the stone started to rotate. Ah, I guess that collection under my bed back on Earth was overlooked. It croaked and creaked, like gears ready to bring us down under. In no time, we started to descend, down into a dark cavern with the only light being the one from that gaping hole we just came from. Once it laid flushed on the ground, we walked off, the path before us fading into the blackness of the cavern. The carved stone coin began to ascend again, like some magical push and pull device guiding it back and forth. Right, I double-checked, there were no cords or chains, no pulley or mechanism moving that thing. It's what to expect in a land where people have light-based mana, right?
we push forward.
Kai instructed, reaching her hand out to illuminate our darkness with a ball of her personal energy. The small ball managed to brighten up our path, stretching meters deep. It was the first time I saw Kai's light raw, and it was impressive. I sucked at my teeth, trying to trigger my own ball of light to hover over my hand. But nothing triggered as I followed behind her. 2 minutes marched by, and I stopped embarrassing myself. Ugh, I guess Kai was right. As long as I couldn't replicate what I did yesterday when I had saved her, then I needed the mother spirit to show me how. That time was nearing us too, because as soon as I picked up my head I noticed the scene around us had changed. It was beautiful. I mean, I hadn't been to many underground shrines, but this had to definitely be one of the 7 natural wonders of Ligera. It looked like we'd just stepped into a turquoise paradise, hovering earth beds draped with flowers and moss, streams of perfect blue water along our path, and in the middle of it all, towers of stone laced with a heavenly aura of aqua and lime. The orange, violet, and blue flowers dressed the stone of Shinra sitting before the altar surrounded by still waters, our path to meet her laid out before us. But I was intimidated, slowly following behind Kai, who took the lead. Once I got closer, I noticed the unlit candles too, the smell in here definitely giving me temple vibes. The scent was natural and earthly, opening the pathways down my nostrils. And when we were only 2 feet away from the sitting statue of who I assumed was Shinra, I turned to my left and saw the reason for the colorful cool tones. Those bright glowing coral beds swaying in the crystal clear water below. The sound of water drops echoed in my ear, making this nerve-wracking silence more audible. I took to Kai's side, waiting for the mother spirit to pop out somewhere and greet us. But after a few seconds of us just standing there, I had to ask, is she coming, or is there a bell we need to ring?
No, Lucian. She is right here.
Right where? Then suddenly, Kai bowed in front of that statue that was sitting at about my height. I had no clue what was happening, so I followed Kai's lead.
A sacrifice must be given so she can present herself,
Kai instructed, lifting her head up from bowing.
Since there are 2 of us, we need 2 sources of light.
Pretty sure we've established that I can't summon light willingly.
It's okay, Lucian. I will double my sacrifice.
Kai.
It is the only way she will reveal herself. It is fine. This requirement is a failsafe,
she said, getting back on her feet. I followed her, my eyes glued to her summoning 2 balls of light in each open palm, her energy quickly dissipating and dispersing around us. I jumped, falling on my ass once that stone statue in front of me started changing colors and moving. It morphed out, growing fleshy colors and bearing realistic clothes. Before I knew it, the real mother spirit had manifested herself from a figure in stone to a figure in flesh, the gray dingy coating finishing to seep through her now glowing yellow eyes. She suddenly spoke with a flinch.
Oh, my knees.
Her raspy voice begged when her body decompressed. From the looks of it, it seemed like she had been stuck in that same position for years. The old woman in gray clenched onto her folded lotus-style legs, rubbing vigorously at her knees.
My word.
She grunted, and I stared, and stared hard, like I'd just seen a magic trick. She was fragile, but her face was glowing, those fine wrinkles and lines giving way to her incredible years. She sagged all over, but she wore these heavy draping clothes, much like a fortune teller would wear. Her ears were huge, with big coins on those shoulder-length lobes. She was ancient all right, yet, she reminded me so much of my feisty Nana back at home.
I'm getting too old for this.
She paused, looking up her height, finally acknowledging her visitors.
Divine Mother Spirit Shinra.
Kai whispered, her face almost swollen with tears.
It's been too long.
Kai, is that you?
Wait, they knew each other? Shinra grinned ear to ear.
My, you haven't aged one bit, have you? The Sun Spirit has blessed you well.
Thank you.
She bowed.
You look marvelous as well.
Oh, stop it. I could barely get my ass off this ancient bed of rock, let alone move about.
She chuckled, then her milk honey eyes turned to me, where that smile of hers waned down a few notches.
Well, that's interesting.
She commented, stroking her chin at me.
Mother Shinra, this is Lucian, son of Kirin.
Kai introduced, and I gave the mother spirit a solid and proud wave while I scooped myself off the ground.
I know exactly who he is. Yes, he's the sun god's son, all right. Looks just like his father. But what I don't understand is why I'm picking up a foreign essence from him.
That is because he is only half god, mother.
And where is the other half from?
Earth.
Her eyes grew 3 times wide, her head pivoting to Kai in shock.
Earth? As in, planet Earth?
Kai nodded.
He's an earthling?
Kai nodded again. Crap, was I going to get hit with the rejection stick again? She reacted in a way I didn't expect, her hand flying over her forehead alarmed.
My, that Kirin needs to have a leash on him. Engaging with women from other galaxies and planets, that is strictly forbidden. Our lineage must start here and end here. By the sun god, he really doesn't know when to push the brakes on that rebellious demeanor of his, does he?
Rebellious? I repeated, trying to think of what else my father did other than have me against the sun spirit's wishes. She paused, Shinra fixing her disappointed glare at me. But then, she mellowed out a bit, giving me an exasperated sigh.
I am sorry, Lucian. None of this is your fault. No, blame your pathetic father.
Mother Shinra.
Kai retorted, quick to defend my father.
Well, it is true, is it not? I see all things, Kai. Where is Kiran now? While our planet is suffering, he is out God knows where, doing God knows what, when he could be here, doing what he does best, and that is defending his people from the void.
He left us for good reason.
Not a satisfactory enough reason for this embodiment of responsibility to escape his duties here. I understand that his absence seemed fit, but look around you. It resolved absolutely nothing, besides further chaos and madness. You'd think he'd drop by to check up on us, that Kiran.
She huffed, pinning her hands to her hips.
I am sorry things haven't been working the way he had planned it, but I've been doing my best trying to search for him. And in my search, I found his son, Lucian. While he isn't full god, he is part god, and clearly pure enough to pay you a visit. So I humbly ask you, Mother Spirit, if you can give him guidance on how he can help our disturbed planet.
Guidance, huh?
She plodded in silence, an unsettling silence that made me gulp all those nerves down my throat. I hope she didn't hold my father's parenting on Earth against me. I didn't want to give her the same vibes as Kiran, even though Kai truly looked up to him.
Yes. First, Lucian doesn't.
Lucian can speak for himself,
She interjected, looking at Kai shrewdly at the corner of her eyes.
Let him speak what he desires from this old hen.
I had cotton in my mouth the way she was looking at me. I didn't want to offend her any, but I also needed her help. So I dropped my shoulders and unclenched my ass cheeks, clearing my throat before I finally addressed her. Shinra, Kai and I traveled far for your help. I have been gifted by the light, but these powers are dormant, only once triggering when. Well...
When he saved me.
Kai finished. For me, right.
Powers derived from deep emotion or intense stress. Yes, I could see how that would be a problem. So, are you saying that you have adopted your father's duties here in Ligera?
Of course. She smiled.
How very kind of you. What's the catch?
My jaw dropped on the floor. Well, I can't consider helping Ligera from the kindness of my heart. I asked, with my fist at my chest in a proud heroic stance.
No.
She said bluntly, taking shots at my ego. Well, she wasn't lying. I had made an agreement with Kai. But to be fair, I had already been leaning toward the idea of helping Ligera regardless.
But, I am glad you decided to take his place. You see what we are going through. Revealing myself up there won't do anyone any good, and I am the next spirit ancestor below your father. Truthfully, I've been praying for a miracle, and I expect that you, this boy barely out of his teen years, would come and sweep us into a new age of prosperity, longevity, and eternal peace.
I couldn't tell if she was being sarcastic or not. She shrugged, with her hands helplessly in the air.
I'll take what I can get.
I gave her a wholesome smile. Thank you. Something about being accepted by Shinra lifted the burden hanging over my head.
But I warn you, the journey won't be easy. I suspect Kai informed you about all of your responsibilities, especially the very important part.
The very important part? I repeated, lost.
Yes, the very important part.
She emphasized, giving me a devious look. Oh, right, I said, flustered.
And with the looks on you, Sonny, I'm sure you won't have a problem fertilizing our land.
She laughed at my expense. Ugh, and it didn't help that she reminded me of my grandma. I fretted hearing her talking about my dick getting around, my face getting redder by the second. Kai on the other hand was tickled, knowing I had already seated her. It was something to be proud about even for a light warrior, and I should consider moving that side quest along as well, right after Shinra enlightened me.
Alright, young Lucian. Let's see what you got.
Shinra held out her wrinkled hands, her skin dry yet clammy. I didn't hesitate to give her mine, her thin, slender fingers soon folding around my hands.
I am going to channel your inner light. Try to relax and grant me access to your godly spirit.
Hey, you can do whatever it is you need to do inside me. She gave me a dirty smile as she closed her eyes.
Trust me, young man, I intend to.
And just like that, the ground under my feet started to tremble. A gold ring of light carved a path around me, putting me in the center. Suddenly, I felt like the gravity around me multiplied 10 times over. My knees dropped, my shoulders did too. I gritted my teeth, trying to keep myself standing, while Shinra had my entire body glowing like a goddamn light bulb.
Lucian?
Kai whimpered, but I couldn't turn my eyes to her. I was too busy trying not to get crushed by this incredible invisible weight.
I need complete silence, light warrior.
Shinra ordered Kai. And then, blackness. I felt like something had just slammed right into me, my body feeling weightless and torn as the force separated me from Shinra. My eyes were open, but I swear I couldn't see anything. The muscles in my limbs started to shred, the burning in my chest making me clench up. It was a terrifying feeling, a mix of pain and power, once the light inside me started to claim my soul. It was intense, and no part of me was ready for the awakening.
Lucian.
Kai cried, and I couldn't answer. This overwhelming transition was nothing I could have expected. Once my body collided with the stone underneath me, my heartbeat vanished for a second. Then 2, 3. My body couldn't take it. I was dying, the pressure of the light making its way up to my head, where it felt like my brain was about to explode. The same feeling carrying to my heart. From no beat, to a rhythm I couldn't put any words to. It was hitting hard and fast, trying to compensate for the light breaching inside me. My body was confused, hanging in a limbo between life and death. I started to scream, my back arching up while my body stiffened like stone, helpless as the light tore through me.
Please, Shinra, make it stop. The light, it's killing him.
Kai begged.
This is his own light, Kai. We must wait and see how his body handles it.
Mother Spirit, this is a man from Earth, only half God. It's too much for him. We cannot just watch him suffer and die.
Have faith, Light Warrior.
She said calmly.
I believe in Lucian. He will make it.
I wasn't so sure, this light literally breaking flesh. I felt the skin off my back snap open, stretching me beyond my limits. I heard Kai gasp as I curled up in a fetal position, my blood splashing out, the veins down my spine rippling.
Lucian.
Kai called me, her voice broken. She was fuming, ready to take matters into her own hands. I heard her draw her weapon, pointing it at Ligera's very own mother spirit.
I will not continue to watch this torture.
Kai cried.
I am ordering you to end this right now.
Don't. I whimpered, feeling all eyes turn to me.
Lucian.
Kai's voice softened. I need to do this, Kai, I fought, through the tears and the agony. I need to do this for you, for my father, for all of Ligera. Please, believe in me. I cried out, suddenly feeling engulfed in light. I had the entire cavern glowing with the sun's energy, my piercing scream triggering the apex of it all. I made the ground sink, the sensation of an earthquake rumbling beneath my knees. I was going to push through this. This was my calling, and I was prepared to embrace it. All of it. Chapter 18. I'd live to see another day. Once the smoke cleared, I was able to see my path before me, and it was breathtaking. The storm had tapered off into a reasonable state, my body absorbing the aftermath of the impact. I was strong enough to get up on my feet, drenched with heat, but booming with crazy power. I turned around, both Mother Spirit and Kai looking at me marveled.
A job well done, Lucian.
Shinra congratulated, clasping her happy hands together.
Lucian.
Kai whispered, her eyes soaked with tears.
Looks like you toned out as well, an added bonus.
Toned out? Shinra's words made me look down at my arms, and while they seemed slightly bulkier, they were covered with blood.
Ah, no worries. I will take care of that,
she announced, swinging her finger up in the air, where her light not only cleaned my skin, but stitched up my clothes as well. I looked brand new, a smile finally catching my face before I rushed to the water near her, looking at my own reflection. Holy hell, my chest is huge.
All right, huge is pushing it.
Shinra teased. If I'd known I'd get a buff boost by coming here, I would have paid you a visit sooner. While it was quick for me to put the tremendous pain behind me once my body adjusted. Kai still appeared heartbroken. She tossed me a fake smile as she disengaged her weapon, my feet moving forward to comfort her. Hey, look at me, I'm alright. No worries, okay? She nodded, while I wiped the tears off her soft cheeks.
Oh?
Shinra commented, the both of us sheepishly wrapping up the touchy moment to address her.
Hey, how about you take a look at your stats now that you're awakened?
I did, thinking to myself, trigger self-stats. Triggered self-stats. Name, Lucian Reef. Race, human Ligerian. Class, Kiran's heir. Role, Light Guardian. Level, 20. Experience, 64 20,000. Points to be allocated, 20. Agility, 47. Brawn, 47. Charisma, 48. Core range, 200. Health, 2000. Light energy, 100% locked at max. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, backbreaker armed. Weapon EXP, 25. Weapons durability, 32 100. Skills. Light classes learned, none. Light-enabled abilities, weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items. Hey, I'm at level 20 now. I grinned. She nodded.
Yes, the boost is called Kiran's Blessing, or more accurately, the Sun Spirit's Blessing. I pray you use those extra points wisely.
I will. Thank you, Shinra. I bowed, then terminated my stats before giving her a playful glare. Though, I would have liked a little warning. She snickered.
If I told you how gruesome it would have been, then you wouldn't have gone along with it.
I am sorry, Mother Spirit, for doubting you.
Kai sulked.
No worries, Light Warrior. Well, it seems as if my work here is done. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to get back to my endless hibernation phase. I trust you will mend this broken world to the best of your now wieldable abilities.
She winked. Wait, Shinra. There's one more thing we needed your help with, I said, my hand reaching for my necklace that I expected to be dangling around my neck. When I couldn't feel it, I jerked my head south, patting down my chest frantically. What the hell? Where did it go?
What's wrong?
Kai asked me. My necklace, the light's core. It's gone. I don't understand, I just had it.
Your father's necklace?
Shinra asked.
You mean the one that was gifted by the Sun Spirit?
We were hoping that you can unlock its powers.
Well, you don't need me to do that for you. Kiran was able to use its powers without me, and Lucian should be able to do the same, now that he has triggered his light. But in order for you to do that, you actually need the necklace to be in your possession.
Shit, I must have dropped it after the fight yesterday.
Then we need to go back to that site. I pray that it's still there where you left it.
The both of us faced Ligera's mother spirit for a proper farewell, bowing to her before we left.
Thank you again, Shinra, for all of your help.
Kai said lastly, Shinra's milky eyes turning to me sternly.
Please tread through our lands, carefully, demigod. While I have faith in your ability to mend this broken world, you need to understand that now that I have awakened you, you are more visible to the shadow elves that are infesting our lands. Be very careful, use good judgment, and wield your weapon wisely.
I took Shinra's words to heart. She believed in me, and I appreciated everything she stood for. I wasn't going to let her down, my determination stronger now than ever. I felt my own light running through me. I felt unstoppable, fearless. And as Kai and I ascended on that stone coin back to the surface, I understood more clearly where this heroic path was taking me. But, I had to find my necklace first.
I am disappointed in myself as well, for not noticing sooner.
Kai said as she looked up to me.
I was the one who brought you to the hotel. I should have been more alert.
Don't blame yourself, Kai. I didn't notice it either, I replied, walking right next to her while we headed back to that same site. She smiled at me, like she was impressed or something.
You look nice.
Nice? Just nice? I teased.
Really? Nice.
She giggled.
Your face didn't really change much. You merely gained a bit of mass.
Where it counts. Too bad I didn't get a special trait, though. I guess it's really something you're born with, huh?
It is all right. I am just happy that you made it out of there alive.
Shit, were you really going to snipe down the mother spirit to save me, butterfly? She blushed.
I was worried about you,
Kai said, and then we both stopped, the sound of crunching leaves in the woods bringing us on high alert. Instantly, Kai pulled out her bow and arrow, while I looked around, noticing the foliage ahead sashaying lightly, as if someone was brushing past it.
Let me take care of it, Lucian.
Kai proposed, with my hand still hard on the grip of my sword I carried on my back. And just before we attacked, the intruder revealed itself. Or herself? Ellery? I was floored. It was that blonde slave girl from before. The same girl we had left by that merchant's old stand. Only this time, she was wearing civilian clothes, and a bright smile between her rosy cheeks. Not to mention my necklace. I beamed, rushing right to her.
Lucian, wait.
Kai begged. She carried my necklace in her fist, its dangling beauty begging me to rush to it. She happily gave it to me, then I quickly wrapped it around my shoulders.
I noticed you had it when you saved me.
Her timid, gentle voice admitted.
I found it a few miles from here and thought about you.
A few miles? How long have you been stalking us?
Kai prodded, her arrow still pointed at the innocent slave girl.
I've been following for a while. I am sorry. I have nowhere to go. And I really wanted to essay. Thank you for helping me,
she said, Kai looking at her with visible hostility.
You've said it, now please, let us be.
Come on, Kai, she came all this way to give this to me. I am indebted to you.
Let's call it even.
Kai said, putting her weapon away.
We freed you, and you gave us back the necklace. We are done here, Ellery.
Please.
She whimpered, folding her hands over her raggedy civilian clothes she must have snatched from the pawn shop. She was a step up from looking like a slave, more like a beggar, which still wasn't the greatest title in the world. Her eyes were pleading to me, and I couldn't look away, that sorry and frightened look on her face making my heart heavy.
I won't be of any trouble. I promise. I just want to feel safe. I have no place to live, no family. I am begging you. I will do whatever you want of me. I promise to make up for my worth, doing anything from hard labor, cooking, field work, anything,
she cried, bleeding her heart out. I turned to Kai, who had that solid look of rejection on her face. I had my back facing Ellery while I tried to convince Kai that she was safe to travel with. Kai, listen.
She stalked us all the way here. She could be a shadow elf.
No, she isn't. I protested, giving her the puppy eyes, the folded hands. Hell, if she wanted to, I'd even go down on my knees. Kai, come on, have a heart. She has no place to go. That nasty old slave creep could find her again and then her torment would be on your hands.
I don't think I would lose any sleep at night,
she said coldly. Kai. She grunted.
All right. But the first sign of her being a threat,
she whispered.
I am going to turn her into a target practice dummy.
I grinned ear to ear, giving Kai a tight hug. Thank you.
Does that mean I can hang out with you guys?
Ellery whispered, the both of us turning back to her in her gentle eyes. Yeah, Ellery. We will be happy to have you join us on our little adventure.
Only until we find a place for you to stay,
Kai confirmed. Shit, Kai, we don't even have a place to stay. Unless, you consider the Rado Palace. Kai snipped me a cold look.
Lucian.
What? We confirmed that we can trust her. There's no reason we shouldn't tell her who we are. I turned to her with a friendly tone. My name is Lucian, and this adorable bundle of happiness is Kai, Rado's light warrior.
My name is Ellery.
We gauged that,
Kai said bitterly.
You two live in the palace? How awesome!
She cheered. We are on a mission of peace, on a journey to purge Ligera of shadow elves, I stated.
Oh, okay. I will try not to get in the way while you take on some boss fights.
She was so adorably enthusiastic.
Ellery, Lucian here is very important. I need you to understand the differences in our stature.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm used to being treated like an untouchable. I will try to keep my distance.
Kai? I disagreed, but Kai didn't budge on this one.
Thank you again, Lucian. You have no idea how much this means to me.
She bowed, the girl practically kissing my feet.
I am forever at your service.
Chapter 19. If Kai was worried about her being a shadow elf, I could just shine my pendant light on her and check for myself. Then I could put those doubts to rest. But as we made our way back to Rasani Manor, I couldn't find myself understanding how this gem worked. I remember Shinra saying that operating this thing was natural, that my father didn't need any help manipulating it, and that I had to use my newly awakened light to somehow make this thing tick. Yeah, no idea. I must have looked like a noob twisting and turning this thing between my fingers, even rubbing it down like a goddamn magic lamp. Nothing I did worked, and I didn't want to start unnecessarily pushing out massive waves of light. I'd just have to wait, the time it took to get back to Cecil and Isla feeling like a few minutes while I preoccupied myself. For the most part, the walk was quiet, Kai keeping to herself while having a close eye on Ellery. The need for separation was strong with Kai, naturally being overprotective of me, but if we were to work as a team, she needed to learn to trust Ellery to some degree. Once we reached the Rasani Manor, we were greeted by guards just the same. Only this time, the guards were even more wary with Ellery in our group. Hey! I greeted, under the afternoon sun with a cheerful demeanor. As for the guard, he looked back at me with his spear and his heavy armor like he had no idea who I was, even though we'd met not too long ago. Although to be fair, his focus was on Ellery, the bubbly girl with the same hat she refused to part with when I'd first met her. She wore a smile just as friendly as mine, but the guard wasn't buying it.
What's your business here, travelers?
His raspy voice begged, Kai and I looking at each other lost.
We came back here to help with the Shadow Elf problem.
Kai insisted. As promised. I beamed. Maybe you're not familiar with the buff new look, but it is I, Lucian. I boasted, giving him a heroic pose.
Oh my, what a pleasant surprise.
Cecil's lovely, delightful voice greeted us, the lady of the manor elegantly pacing herself from the front door.
I could have sworn I heard my 2 favorite people out in my front yard. And, might I say, you've gotten bigger, Lucian.
She cheered, until her eyes fell on Ellery, where her happy approach crashed faster than I could bat her an eye.
Who is this?
She asked, looking at her, disgusted. She's Ellery, our friend, I greeted on her behalf.
She is Lucian's friend.
Kai corrected.
And she's a sexist.
No need to get into all the details. I quickly interjected, shutting Kai up with my hand over her lips. I knew what she was doing, trying to label Ellery as an untouchable, so Cecil wouldn't let her in her house. I removed my hand over Kai's quick-firing lips and continued to convince Cecil. Don't worry. She's my moral support. A little light on the light, but she's as sweet as pie. And can make you one, if you want. Ellery nodded vigorously.
I can bake a mean pie.
Lady Cecil, we are back as promised, here to help with the infestation.
Kai continued.
But before we get to that, I need to stock up on my arrows. Do you have a personal blacksmith?
Of course I do. Come, let's go inside where we can get you situated and ready for tonight's patrol. Guards, they are okay to come with me.
Next scene. What a sweetheart that Lady Cecil was. Even though she was skeptical about Ellery, she allowed her into her home anyway off of my judgment call. I appreciated her having so much trust in me, enough to give Ellery a guest room with its own private bath. While Kai stocked up on her weapons supply, I assisted Ellery in getting adjusted in her bedroom. There was a hobo smell coming from her that I hadn't caught before, Cecil having had pointed it out, handing me washing supplies on her behalf. And while Ellery didn't exactly scream sex slave anymore, the hand-me-down clothes she had on her back weren't doing her any good either. More giving from Cecil helped her look more presentable by offering Ellery a small wardrobe and stocking her small closet with clothes. They were Isla's old and edgy clothes, so they were small enough to slip over Ellery's petite size. And once I got her situated with a drawn bath and something to replace that number she was wearing over on the bed, I got ready to dash off. Well, looks like you're all set here. Please, make yourself right at home, I said, saluting her goodbye before she stopped me right on my tracks.
Lucian,
she cried, standing there with her bare feet on that ivory marble bathroom floor, with her towels cradled in her arms.
I cannot thank you enough.
Her voice shattered, the look on her face making my heart skip a beat. She was on the verge of tears, before I rushed to take her in my arms. Hey, there'll be none of that here, I said, trying to cheer her up. Don't worry about repaying me any, Ellery. It's my responsibility to help my people in need.
Kai said that. I'm not allowed to touch you.
I looked down to her, stepping back an inch to meet that watery, beautiful gaze. Well, I'm telling you that it's okay for you to give me a harmless hug. And she did. As soon as I gave her permission, she flung herself to me, holding me nice and tight.
You must really be someone special. I can tell that your heart bleeds kindness.
She whispered, letting her fingers graze down my stomach tenderly.
Lucian, I have an odd request.
My eyes grew. I had Ellery over here getting a bit touchier than I anticipated, stroking her fingers down my abs with her face burrowed in my chest. Her heart was racing, and so was mine. What do you need, Ellery? I asked, dropping my hand on her shoulder. She looked up to me shyly, chewing on her lip as she slowly drew away from me.
My hair, can you please cut it?
I cocked a brow up. You want me to cut your hair?
Yes, please. If you can.
I chuckled, feeling like I dodged a tempting bullet there. Sure, I can try, but I'ma warn you, I'm not the best artist with scissors. I feel like you'd be better off asking.
No.
She shouted.
I only trust you to do it.
I could tell she was passionate about only having me handle her, so I agreed, and set up shop in the bathroom. To be fair, her hair wasn't the best, filled with split ends and hiding knots that needed a good trim, and I tried my best giving her one. Although she continued to refuse my suggestions to take off her hat. I abided by her strange request and didn't question it anymore. After 20 minutes, I gave her the hand mirror that was in the medicine cabinet so she could take a look at my creation. Not half bad, if I did say so myself. Cutting her blonde locks in layers gave me a somewhat reasonable excuse to hide my uneven finishes, but she loved it, so much that she followed up with another bizarre request. Ellery wanted me to give her a bath. The devil was tempting me tonight. I had to scratch my chin on that one, without even asking myself why she couldn't scrub down on her own. Maybe she didn't want to be alone? Heck, was she going to ask me to sleep with her tonight as well? I left her question hanging for too long, and gave in to the thrill of bathing her. It would have to be our little secret, because if Kai found out, she wouldn't hesitate to send poor Ellery packing once she knew I mean really touched, an untouchable. The towel went off and my forehead started to sweat. Ellery slipped her tasty taboo body into the warm bath I had topped with hot water right after her haircut, seeing as it had been sitting there for a while. She wasn't angling at me, nothing frisky or raunchy. But as she slipped into the water, I noticed those welts on her back, possibly from her ex-slave owner's lashes. I fretted, my chest tanking once that image of her abuse resurfaced. I looked down, my eyes catching a little nub hanging on her tailbone, covered with what looked like an adhesive white gauze. I didn't think anything of it, as it seemed she really just wanted me to help bathe her. So I knelt along the edge of the freestanding bathtub, with a sponge at hand, and her velvety smooth skin in the other. Okay, this was totally unfair.
You're doing great, Lucian.
She whispered.
I hope this isn't making you uncomfortable.
Not at all. I lied, my voice breaking out into a high pitch.
It's just nice. Being around a man who doesn't want to control and abuse me.
I froze.
I want to trust men again, to trust people again. And I feel like you can help me get there.
Chapter 20. That bath with Ellery got real on me. She had opened up just a little bit, enough for me to understand where she was hurting, and where she was coming from. From the sounds of it, it seemed like she'd been a slave for a while. She had just turned 18, which meant she had been working as a slave since she was 16. I was torn, but I wanted her to feel like she was part of society again, and not just some tool for some creep's pleasure. After a bath, I gave her one of Myra's snacks and she knocked out in her bed as soon as her ass hit the sheets. It must have been a while since she'd gotten the luxury, and I'd leave Ellery with a smile on her face before I killed the lights off in her bedroom.
What are you doing?
I jumped, the sound of Isla's voice carrying down the hallway startling me. I looked to my left, the redhead standing there staring my way with her arms crossed over her chest. But when I gave her my full frontal, her eyes dropped. I'm just tucking a friend to bed, I confessed, then a smile found my face. What? You look like your eyes are lost on my chest. She bit her lip, those V's on her forehead making their debut.
Egotistical prick.
She insulted, trying to fight that blush creeping up her face. I'll take the compliment, I taunted.
Hurry your ass up. We need to station ourselves out on patrol. Kai's already covering the south.
And where are we headed?
The north.
She admitted to us guarding together.
I hope you brought some power in that overinflated chest of yours.
Oh, don't worry, I did. Isla walked me over to our post right after I got my gear. I was locked and loaded, ready to show the entire manor what I could do with my newly awakened light powers. But first, I needed to allocate my points. So I thought to myself, trigger self-stats. Triggered self-stats. Name, Lucian Reef. Race, human Ligerian. Class, Kiran's heir. Role, Light Guardian. Level, 20. Experience, 64 20,000. Points to be allocated, 0. Agility, 57. Brawn, 57. Charisma, 48. Core range, 200. Health, 2000. Light energy, 100% locked at max. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, backbreaker armed. Weapon EXP, 25. Weapons durability, 32-100. Skills. Light classes learned, none. Light enabled abilities, weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items. Light's core. I terminated my screen once I split those 20 points between brawn and agility. I knew Kai would give me some lip about it, but with the light's core, I really couldn't find myself feeding into core range. Especially after I'd gotten that lovely boost from Kieran's blessing. I'd get to it eventually, when I got more familiar with these stats. But then, I started to think to myself. I never got the rundown on how to trigger my abilities, or how to channel my light through my sword. I could be overthinking it. I mean, how hard could it be, right? Maybe I should ask Isla. Or maybe not. If I asked her for help with anything, she'd hold it against me. I was getting bored of the insults, so instead, I teased her, taking this time we were walking down the manor property to gauge her readiness to sleep with a god. Hope you're ready to lose our bet, Isla, I taunted, flinging my crossed arms behind my head.
I don't know when I'd given you the impression that we were on a casual name-calling basis.
She spat.
You shall address me by my proper title.
You mean, spoiled brat? She stopped immediately, pulling her sword from her sheath, and brandishing that fine piece of metal at me. Isla sported a long sword, with a silver and white hilt, the bastard glowing with the impulsive waves of her light energy. I should have felt threatened, but there was a hidden beauty in a girl as sassy and sexy as her, who could hold her own against shadow elves. Isla was dressed more like a warrior than even Kai, with silver armor under dark threads, showing a little skin where it counted. She had me staring, and while she was more bothered with slicing me up, I was more distracted with eyeing her down.
I've had enough of that foul running mouth of yours.
She retorted.
How about I carve a permanent smile on that happy-go-lucky face?
Shit, your mom wouldn't be happy about that, I teased.
My mother is blinded by your pathetic charismatic charm. I do not bend that easily.
Trust me, you will be bending soon. She blushed, her stance turning offensive at me.
Keep talking. Let that bravado of yours dig you a deeper grave.
Wait, Isla.
Too late. I'm going to have fun putting you in your place.
I engaged my weapon, the weight of it not fazing me anymore. My sword was clearly bigger and heftier than Isla's, the look on her face nervous as I matched her light output. But I wasn't angling to strike my partner down. Instead, I noticed shadows running high behind her and seeping along her feet. Before they could even sweep us, I acted, my impulse faring against them when I charged up and leaped over Isla's head. My ground for such momentum was justified. Those bastards grew 5 times her size in the matter of seconds. Isla ducked while I sliced, right through those sneaky shadow elves mid-materialization. They didn't have time to shape themselves, but they did fuse, the blob meeting a small output of light I pumped down my back breaker. I countered as soon as my feet hit the ground, Isla rolling a distance to notice the fight behind her. I took the direct approach, ignoring the fact that I also had a long-range weapon connected to my customized blade. It wouldn't matter though, my light made quick work out of the shadow beast. I felt weightless in the air, slashing a giant axe to disperse these shadow limbs into nothingness. It absorbed my light, a loud screech piercing my ears as the rest of the void's puppet vaporized. Once I dropped back down, that pulsating light around me gradually faded, Isla slowly approaching me from behind. I turned to her, that floored look on her face priceless.
Kieran.
No, the name is Lucian, I chuckled. It looked like she snapped out of it, shaking her head, giving me her sass again. And after I had just saved her life, too.
That's what I meant.
She roared.
Don't get too cocky, warrior.
Warrior? I smiled. Well, that's a first. I take it that you are impressed with my light-wielding capabilities.
No, I'm just relieved that I don't have to play babysitter and protect you. You can manage on your own.
She relaxed her shoulders, letting that heat roll off her tongue before she finally showed me some appreciation.
But thank you for the save.
Her soft voice said sheepishly. Oh damn, that gratitude looked like it hurt. I snorted.
We aren't done here,
she said, gripping her sword tight again.
Once you show these stubborn creatures the light, they will come for more. They are all connected, like they share the same master brain or something. It's annoying, and only serves as a potential downfall for our society. And seeing as you're Kieran's son, well, we just might be in even more trouble yet.
Just as she mentioned that, I started to hear growling, coming at us from all angles.
The front sweep may be riddled with a bunch of them. They might have sent a message across.
But I'm not Kieran. I protested, catching myself being afraid of a pack of shadow wolves about to get us.
No, but you share his godly light.
Isla said, taking to my side.
In case Kai hadn't told you, you're their prime target. And as such, you should embed into your brain this idea of limitless energy. While that cute little air leap was you using your light for reach, you can do much more impressive things. Just imagine it, and it will manifest. The light inside you will bring your wants into reality. It is that simple, Lucian.
She leaned in and grounded her feet.
So, prepare to defend. At all costs.
I needed that same training she'd gone through with her father. The determination on Isla matched Kai's, and I'd soon find myself sandwiched between two strong-minded light warrior women. How did I get so lucky? I wouldn't disappoint them, preparing my sword and my body to wield this godly light my father had passed down to me. I had the torch, and I was ready to protect and preserve Ligera. This new group of shadow elves had time to work out a strategy here and assimilate. They were organized, a pack of shadow beasts disguised as wolves surrounding us. This time they took fleshier forms, meaning they were more impervious to light, but more susceptible to our weapons. Isla didn't waste any time. She noticed they were running along the perimeter, trying to circle us. She dove in, headstrong, bending their formation, and bringing the fight to her. Fearless was an understatement. Her blade being outnumbered didn't deter this girl one bit. I took on the task of being her shield, and while Isla slashed from beast to beast, I acted as her cover. She was fast on her feet, not giving these shadow elves the time of day. Slash after slash. I tried to match her speed and strength, the numbers simmering down drastically. Isla always went for the neck, her blade sharp enough to tug through with one swift decapitating motion. Her fighting style almost looked like a ballet, graceful and poise. I caught myself admiring her and what she stood for, and I could learn a thing or two from her determination and vigilance. But these shadow elves were persistent. They were hitting it heavy tonight because of me and my godly light. I could hear a scuffle not too far from where we were at, and I imagined Kai and the guards were entertaining their own battle. I settled my feet on the ground and took in a deep breath, Isla walking up to me at the end of that wave, but she hadn't drawn her sword away yet. Should we help them? I asked.
No. Knowing Kai, she can take care of her own. We'd better.
Isla stopped, abrupt enough to make my chest skip a beat. She winced and fell on one knee, dropping her sword like she was injured. Isla. I rushed to her, her face growing pale, her hands clutching her throat. I had no clue what the fuck was happening. Isla's armor hadn't been penetrated. I had been covering her the best I could. There wasn't a scratch on the Lady of Rasani, so my next assumption was some type of malady. Had she really gone through battle knowing she was sick? No, this had to be something else. It looked like she was choking.
Lucian.
She struggled through her fleeting breath, and that's when I noticed the bruise-like texture growing on her neck. Her flesh around the site, it was burning hot, my fingers quickly stripping hers off to see what the hell was going on.
Para.
Isla, what are you trying to tell me? Shit, I was starting to shake inside, cradling her on my lap, ready to do chest compressions. Or scream for help, or both. My mind was muddled, I couldn't think straight. I was losing her, until I noticed her eyes sinking on me, Isla opening her mouth to show me something blocking her airways. What the fuck? It looked like the squirming tail end of a huge worm. Wait, it was dark, pitch black, almost like a shadow elf. No more questions, I had to act now. I slipped my mouth over hers, figuring my hand might have been too big to reach it. I noticed the thing growing in her, and I was running out of time. But as it grew, that slimy tail end protruded out more, allowing my teeth to snatch it. I was invading this princess's boundaries, but I doubt she would complain about me locking lips with her to save her life. It was the kiss of death, literally. I had to hope and pray that this latch with my teeth was strong enough to yank it straight out of her mouth. It was the grossest feeling, but I set that squishiness aside, giving it a strong bite and hauling it as quickly as I could. And in less than 2 seconds, I pulled that jammed bastard clean out her swollen throat. She gasped, saliva and slime slipping off her tongue. I flung the sorry sucker in the air, spewing it over to the side where it tried to escape. Isla moved, quickly snatching her sword and impaling the fat shadow slug dead.
Die, you piece of shit.
Her voice shook, Isla still clinging onto her throat, rattled. I sensed a pair of eyes on us, looking up to notice a light turning off from the top east window of the estate, where Ellery's bedroom was. Chapter 21. What a stressful night. Once we got back inside, Isla's mother noticed the pallor on her skin. But it had been worse earlier, and both Isla and I knew that. She was slowly regaining her strength, even being stubborn enough to refuse me carrying her up to her bedroom. She promised me she was fine, and that it was the result of letting her guard down earlier. But how did a shadow elf slip inside her mouth without her realizing it? They were crafty creeps for sure. I was still shaken up from it. I could have lost her back there. Thankfully, we both made it out alive. And after she retired for the night, Kai came back inside as well, the both of us sharing a post-mission report painted in the blood of our fallen enemies. I was sure to have gotten some EXP from that skirmish, so I decided to take a quick look at my stats by thinking, trigger self-stats. I noticed the only change was my points toward leveling up and my weapon's EXP inching up as well. At this rate, I'd bulk up in no time, especially if I stayed here and continued fighting these Rasani Alps. The court wasn't kidding about these nighttime attacks. I was thankful I could keep my promise to Lady Cecil and Isla, and with these powers, this crusade was only the beginning. I felt unstoppable, giving myself a nice pat on the back for a job well done, and decided to rest up myself, hopefully to a less chaotic morning. But after I washed up, something told me to walk toward the front door to my bedroom, feeling as if someone was standing there. It was damn near 2 in the morning now. My mind must have been playing tricks on me. I swung the door open, and there was nothing there, nothing but the sweet smell of cherries wafting through the hallway. My stomach must have drawn me over, warping my brain, because I was 2 seconds from cartoonishly levitating down to the kitchen for a post-midnight snack. The food would have to wait, though, but before I closed my door, I heard someone's feet scurrying away from me, the sound of hinges creaking in my ears. So someone was trying to pay me a visit. I wondered who. Next scene. I dreamed about a different Ligera last night, a peaceful one without shadow elves or the void threatening their way of life. There was a cornucopia of women and children, fields filled with livestock and crops ready for harvest. Days were long and nights ran short, and the Ligerian population all rejoiced in their new sun god, me. The dystopian era was gone, all thanks to yours truly, and I took my father's place in the kingdom of Rado. I woke up feeling energized this morning because of that dream, feeling like I had a new purpose in life. It was the strangest thing fighting off those shadow elves last night, making me forget all about that contract I had with Kai. I wasn't just some foreigner in Ligera, I was one of them now, their savior, and their protector. I embraced it, including all of the responsibilities that came with the title. Preserve, protect, and populate. I had that last one already on my mind, waking up with a raging boner. From what? Could have been the battle last night, working side by side with Isla, who showed me a taste of what she could do with that sword. Now, I wanted to see what she could do with my sword, finishing up my morning routine, just to head out my door with an actual visitor waiting for me this time. Speaking of Lady Rasani. I gasped, not expecting Isla to be standing by my door, looking up to me baffled. She had her fist up, ready to knock on my door, with a guilty face hidden behind that obvious blush. She slipped her hand behind her hips quickly and cleared her throat, where I noticed what she was wearing, a silky little number, in ivory white. Looking like she didn't even bother getting dressed when she got out of bed. My curious eyes learned to admire the crop top and booty shorts, putting a dirty smile on my face while I waited for her to address the winner of our little bet.
Thank you.
She whispered. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, thank you.
She growled behind her teeth, my ears barely catching her being appreciative. Whoa! Lady Islamot was of Rasani here saying thank you, to me? A lowly human of Earth? Why, this must be my lucky dash. She immediately shushed me, ramming her finger over my lips, that resistance on her face making me take a step back.
Don't you dare start with your sarcasm, Lucian.
She huffed.
This is already hard enough for me.
She cried, inching closer to me, before she closed the door shut with the heel of her bare foot. She was frustrated that she lost the bet, I could tell, Isla clenching her arms, rubbing them up and down as she paced further into my bedroom. So, that's why you're really here? You couldn't wait until maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 more rounds of monster slaying?
Would you shut up?
She snapped sourly, giving me her back while I plopped myself comfortably back on my bed. I had every right to gloat, Isla being the most difficult person I've met so far in Ligera. I lounged on that bed too, on the side, with my hand against my head, in an inviting pose for her to ravish me. Heh, sorry for teasing you. But I get it. I'm sure a brat like you had never lost a bet before, I continued. But don't worry, it'll be 2 hours of your life that you'll never forget. I winked. I promise.
I don't like being seen like that, looking so defenseless,
she said, my face churning at her comment. Defenseless? Exactly what kind of kink did you expect us to be?
I'm talking about last night, asshole,
she blurted, snapping her raging eyes to me with a fist curled up ready to serve her sun god. I got up, noticing Isla taking us back to a few hours ago, when I had pulled that deadly slug from out of her mouth. She calmed down when she saw me approach her, a blooming serious conversation calling for a serious solution.
I can't expect you to understand how terrible that could have ended for me. You haven't lived here long enough to know how shadow elves claim bodies, or end them.
My eyes lowered soberly. Isla.
It could have kept growing until it popped my head clean off my shoulders, or it could have possessed me, making me a shadow walker. And to be honest, I'd rather die than be made a pawn in killing my people. I was fortunate to have you there with me, Lucian. I rarely slip up like that. I know better than to drop my guard. All it took was a second, that first time you saved me from that huge one growing from behind me. It must have crawled on me without me noticing somehow.
She shivered, holding onto herself tightly.
I still feel disgusted by it.
Well, you look as good as new, now, I said with a smile. It's what I'm here for, right? To serve and protect? I'm the one who should be feeling lucky she caught me again, shutting me up a second time as she cut me off. Although, this method I was all for, feeling Isla's lips against mine. She tiptoed to reach my height, the girl forceful behind that passionate thank you kiss. I closed my eyes and took her by the nape, her red hair sweeping over my fingers. I answered back to her, letting the lady of the court know that I took all tokens of appreciation. She pulled back from me an inch, those hazel stargazed eyes latched on me. Isla, did you try seeing me last night? I whispered, Isla turning away bashfully.
I came to pay my dues.
She whispered back. Yeah? Heh, I suspected such, taking Isla underneath that heart-shaped ass of hers and lifting her over my hips. She snatched my shoulders, my bold moves taking the lady by surprise. You know, Cecil told me all about how you operate, I admitted to her, my voice smooth and seductive. All dirty jokes aside, I think it's really remarkable what you're doing here, not only for your mom, but for your people. Taking initiative, raising up to be a fighter rather than a victim. That's not an easy thing to do. And if I can be honest, I have a thing for redheads. Even though my last encounter with one wasn't the best. She grinned.
I bet that mouth of yours got you into a lot of trouble.
Always, I said with a smile. But you're a different case entirely. Grilling my ass ever since I stepped foot into this court, I said as I walked her over to my bed, dropping her ass along its edge. Her body sprung like a slinky, my hands making quick work of getting those clothes off of Isla as soon as possible. And she didn't stop me, looking at me lost, like she hadn't a clue. She let me take all of her in, from that smooth velvety skin to those huge D-cups bouncing into place once I'd slipped her crop top off. I could already smell the wet heat between her closed legs, Isla being awfully coy with me as she tried to hide her delicious curves. And there's nothing I like more than breaking a stubborn woman, I cooed, slipping my top over my head, before I flopped out the goods. On cue, Isla's eyes grew wide, those hazel hues locked on my hard-on. I slapped it around for her a little, made her legs curl up. I was excited, and I could tell she was too, lost bet or not. I knew you had your eyes on me since the first day we met.
No, I didn't,
she retorted, her face telling me a different story. I flipped her over, letting those perky cheeks arch up to my groin, pinning Isla's knees together on the bed. Keep talking like that, Isla. I leaned over her arched back and whispered in her ear, you're only turning me on. I didn't bother with a warning, this pussy begging for an introduction since day one. Rough angry sex was the best kind of sex, and I was hungry, grabbing my cock at the base so I could guide my throbbing girth inside her. I caught Isla snatching the sheets with her fists, moaning into her tousled hair as I prepared to plow her back. I watched as my dick did a disappearing act, right into her cozy walls, my chest tightening up as Isla swallowed me in. Shit, I gasped. Damn, Isla. A well-deserved wait. I had Isla grabbing me in all the right places, those hot juices swimming in a pink paradise. I didn't even remember when my hands latched on her hips, my eyes distracted with how those cheeks ricocheted into my balls with every hard pump I pounded her with. The feeling was incredible, those squishy ruffles guiding me down the depths of her tunnel. I couldn't stop, adjusting to catch her soft spot. And when I did, it showed. Isla was barely able to contain herself with all of that squirming.
"Ah, Lucian,"
she said in a sexy whimper, the blanket of silky red hair draped over her back jumping off her skin with every beat. And I'd beat her to no end, the feeling of her sex like fire. I leaned in to suppress the need to nut too soon, grabbing my little rose flower by the back of her neck, whispering dirty words through her virgin ears. You probably should have given me a harder bet, I purred. You had a feeling I'd come back stronger, and you were looking forward to this ass beating, weren't you?
"Shut up and come inside me, already,"
she ordered me.
"so you can satisfy your godly agenda."
She stunned me. Isla. I pulled out, feeling like I had to set her straight. I wasn't done with the Lady of Rasani, my legs straddling her while my cock bounced over that swollen mound of hers. Her face was the reddest I'd seen, Isla trying to hide her flush from me with those sweaty stray hairs all over her skin. But she was also trying to hide something else, and I wanted to know where that comment came from. I brushed her hair aside and turned her beautiful face my way, cupping my hand against her cheek. I like it better like this. That way, I can see the expression on your face when I make you come, I jested.
"You have no filter, do you?
Do you think this is just me fucking with you because I have to?
Wasn't that what our deal was all about?"
No. I mean, yeah, but this is more than that, I confessed, slipping my cock back inside her warmth before leaning my body over that hourglass figure. Unless you don't feel the same way about me. Either way, I'm going to enjoy this moment of us being together regardless.
"Why would you say that, knowing how I feel?"
she asked bashfully. I grinned. It's nice to hear you finally admitting that you like me, I purred, jerking my hips between her legs again.
"Lucian."
You know, it's okay to show me you're enjoying this. You can drop your guard with me just this once, Isla. Why don't we have some fun with it? I know you can talk dirty. You already have a potty mouth, I chuckled.
"Very funny,"
she sassed.
"but I'm not really good with bed talk,"
she said timidly. You've never tried it with me.
"Fuck me, daddy,"
she said in an awkward anger. I laughed. Ha, you're right, you're terrible at it, I teased, Isla giving me a playful punch in my arm. Come on, try saying it in a different tone, I said, giving her a few strokes of motivation. More sexy, less petty.
"Oh, Lucian. Fuck me, daddy,"
she sang, those eyes rolling to the back of her head. That look on her had me going too, breaking my momentum, until she clamped her fingers in my biceps, Isla's chest arching up nice and high. I'd never crossed a quiet comer, Isla's convulsing and her pussy crushing my cock with strong contractions, the only indication of her reaching an orgasm. It was different, an exciting type of different, making me blow my load inside her with a deep grunt. I had no chance, especially after the wave of pulses slipping down her grabbed my cock even tighter. Isla had my head going numb, my breathing jagged, and my body tight. And then, I felt a stream of warm liquid spray my happy trail, and that's when Isla showed me she was a screamer after all. She gave me a cry I'd never forget, tears streaming out of her eyes. More of that warm juice continued to squirt at me, but my hips kept going. I wasn't done, not until she was, feeling my seed squishing and splashing inside her. Her body begged me to stop once she finished, Isla being overloaded from it all. I tuckered her out, the Lady of Rasani unable to even open her eyes as she mumbled something too low for me to hear. I pulled out, the weight of my cock heavy and spongy as it sat on her mound. I swear I could see steam coming out of it, cum still oozing off the tip. Isla laid there limp, her perky breasts heaving in and out. I looked down to see that she had squirted on me, a true first. Sorry if you didn't want me to stop. It looked like I was about to break you, I said, Isla still trying to mouth something to me. Hey, are you alright? Do you need another round of mouth-to-mouth? I teased, Isla taking the joke better than I thought when she flicked me off. I chuckled, taking her under her arms, Isla clearly having enough strength left in her to take me down and abuse my act of kindness. I wasn't trying to fall underneath her, Isla capitalizing and tossing my back on the bed with her weight anyway. I wouldn't fight it, letting her lips brush against mine as we fell on the bed together. Then she looked at me lovingly, giving me a soft kiss.
Lucian, I want to call you something else.
She whispered.
I want to call you my Dasha.
Chapter 22. POV, Kai. The morning after a one battle was always the calmest. I woke up, prepared to cut my routine short, just so I could meet up with Lucian sooner. I thought that maybe he would appreciate us sharing breakfast together, where I considered having to act professional in front of the court. They couldn't know about us being involved with each other, beyond the responsibilities of the sun god's breeding ritual. I felt it was hardest on me, having to travel with him as a comrade and not a mate. Because Lucian was everything I wanted in a man, and more. I couldn't stop with these dirty thoughts of him. There was never a bridge between lust and love with the way I felt about Lucian. From the way he took me that night, to the way he held me in his arms. Lucian was rough but gentle and sweet at the same time, my heart racing at the idea of us doing it over and over again. I felt a blush rise up my cheeks from how forceful he was, his girth stretching me out and seating me, letting these animalistic desires further taint my oath. But in the end, those thoughts left me shattered inside. While I couldn't go against the sun spirit's rules, I felt like I already did, for having such deep emotions for Lucian. I finished combing my hair out, and looked in the mirror one last time, to gawk at all those little details he appreciated from me. Lucian. For once, I felt like a woman and not a tool for retribution. It was a lovely feeling, to have someone care for you beyond what you can provide for them. I found myself enjoying being in my own skin, a smile stretching on my face, being happy again after a long time. Not to mention, he left me feeling stronger after our session, my light capacity amplifying seemingly overnight. This feeling of being together was bittersweet, but I couldn't get enough of it. I walked out of my bedroom anticipating seeing him again, but I didn't get very far, noticing Ellery's bedroom door open. The idea of her being around my Lucian changed my mood, making me bitter, and moved my feet toward her door. I was still very skeptical about her being a shadow elf, and I wasn't sure what to make of her. Naturally, Dark was attracted to light, which was why Lucian's inability to let her go rubbed me the wrong way. And since Lucian hadn't confirmed anything with Kieran's pendant, I had to expect the worst. She sat by the vanity mirror, learning about her new clothes, adjusting the bra strap under her brown blouse. The girl was inches away from lifting her hat off her head, her face giving off worried expressions, until she caught my reflection in the mirror, Ellery jumping right up and pivoting toward me.
Kai,
she said, startled.
Oh, good morning. I didn't hear you enter.
Why are you always wearing that hat? I said, Ellery reading the hostility in my voice where I stood. Your slave owner was trying to take it off of you. Yet, you were adamant about keeping it on. Are you hiding something under there?
No,
she was quick to say, pulling down on the long ears of her hat. Then why not take it off? I asked, approaching her. She took a step back.
It's very important to me. I don't want to lose it.
No one is trying to take it from you.
Kai.
She whimpered.
Please, don't make me.
My eyes narrowed on her. I'm not trying to, Ellery. Just tell me why it's so important that it stays on your head.
I have a condition,
she said, contradicting her words, already caught lying to me. She darted her eyes, her face heating up and her arms shaking. It didn't matter. All in all, her very presence was a threat to Lucian, and I couldn't let go of my gut telling me she was working with the enemy. Ellery, don't you consider what Lucian did for you enough? She smiled shyly, vigorously nodding her head.
Of course. It's the nicest anyone has ever been to me. I can't thank the both of you enough.
Then you should leave, I said, that smile on her sailing. You just said that you appreciated what he did for you, and since there's no way of us knowing if you're a shadow elf, to repay his kindness, you should leave.
But, I'm not.
How do you expect us to take your word for it? She furrowed her eyebrows at me, ready to stand up for herself.
Did Lucian tell you he doesn't want me around?
He did, I lied.
Did he really?
Her voice broke, her eyes getting misty. Why would I lie to you? It's easier for him to tell you through me. The both of us are getting strange vibes from you. And to ensure our safety, we don't want to travel with a potential enemy. Shadow elves take all kinds, and I'm not convinced that you being a slave is enough proof that you can't turn around and eat someone's heart out.
How can you say that? I've done nothing wrong.
Yet. I know how you types function. It is no secret that you prey on the weak-willed, then branch your tactics from there. Because once you spread, there is nothing stopping you and your forces from taking over. I barked. I've seen firsthand what shadows can do, turning innocent lives into a racing game, a sport, to see how fast and how many of us you can slaughter in a short amount of time. Lucian is very important to me, to all of us. And don't think for a second that I will drop my guard and allow you to take him away from saving us all. It was a well-played angle, but not one that will work with me. You're lucky that I'm letting you leave and not striking you where you stand. Now, get out. I watched her break down, sobbing softly in her sleeves as she darted out of her bedroom with nothing but the clothes on her back. Lucian would hate me for it now, but thank me for it later. I couldn't jeopardize the mission, or his life.
Chapter 23. POV, Lucian. Boyfriend, huh? It had a nice ring to it, better than everyone else swinging the word made around. I'd left Isla in my bedroom, where she promised me she'd join the rest of us for breakfast once she washed up. She hadn't wanted me to wait around for her, still trying to save some face for whatever reason. Heck, I respected it, and allowed her all the time she needed to admit to the entire court that the both of us were together. Yeah, together. Because why wouldn't I have agreed to that offer? Isla was a dynamite babe with a powerful swing. It'd be stupid for me to pass on her, even though she was torn when I'd asked her to join Kai, Ellery, and I on our adventure. She had said she needed to protect her mother in the Baron's manor. I understood, and hadn't pried further, feeling like she could do more work in an environment she was familiar with. Never did it cross my mind to push the brakes on how fast I was falling for these girls of Ligera until now. Kai and Isla. And then there was Ellery, who I still hadn't gotten a chance to get close to, but there was something about her I couldn't deny. Like this forbidden chemistry, this gravitational pull. Her history had nothing to do with it. If anything, her being an untouchable had helped me understand her even more. It was something to talk about, something we could work on, that moment she'd mentioned being able to trust me the closest she'd been to anyone. And then my eyes jumped, her shoulder bumping into mine, where I nearly missed her whizzing past me. I was so distracted with my own thoughts, that the girl I was thinking about was a few inches away from bulldozing me over. But it clicked, the sound of her crying, her hands over her face. I grabbed her wrist just as she passed me, reeling Ellery in, the ex-slave girl actually fighting me off her this time.
Let go.
She mewled. Ellery, what's wrong?
I'm only doing what you told me to do.
She blared, her face screaming at me. My chest tanked, and I was torn from her words. What the hell had I asked her to do? To have her so distraught like this? Ellery.
Please, release me. I need to leave.
Where are you going?
Anywhere. Anywhere I don't have to worry about everyone looking down on me, thinking that I'm a monster.
She sobbed.
If you want me out, I will gladly stay out of your way.
No one said anything about wanting you out, Ellery. And no one said anything about you being a monster.
Kai made that request loud and clear.
Ugh, that Kai.
I don't want to hold anyone back. Just let me go.
I narrowed my eyes on her, trying to calm her down. Ellery, you're not going anywhere. Kai was putting words in my mouth. She looked back at me, hopeless and confused. She stifled her crying, and once I reeled her into my chest, I felt her relax a bit. You can take my words to heart. When I say something, I stand behind it, I reassured her, stroking her hair while she clung onto me close. You're not a monster, Ellery, you're also not an untouchable. Not through my eyes. All life is precious. And you aren't any different.
Lucian.
Come on. Let's sit and talk somewhere private. Somewhere private might have been a challenge. The entire court was lively this morning, so I settled for bringing her in my bedroom. Isla had already gone down, expecting me for breakfast. I figured Kai was waiting down there as well with Lady Cecil, but I needed to clear things with Ellery. I didn't want her thinking she didn't belong, to feel threatened like she had for the past few years. I wanted her to know that she was in a safe place around me, this court, and Kai. She was someone else I'd need to talk to separately. We couldn't go around treating her as a sex slave. Ellery didn't ask for that title. I sat her on my bed, before I pulled a chair over and a box of tissues from my desk, sitting it in front of her.
Thank you,
she said, her voice still rattled and her face still flushed. I took my seat, leaning in, giving her my full attention. Hey Ellery, I want you to continue feeling comfortable around me. If something is bothering you, please, let me know. I'll try and rectify the problem if I can. I don't want my friends feeling this way. She nodded. Finally, a smile on her face. It was faint, but promising.
I thought you might have changed your mind and seen me as what everyone else did.
I don't judge people like that, Ellery.
You know, my life here hasn't been the best. I can't remember a time when I was truly happy. And then, I met you. You make me happy, Lucian. And when Kai told me that you didn't want me around anymore, it broke me. I felt like you'd run a knife through my chest. I thought that, finally, I met someone who cared about me as a person and not as an object. Something radiating from you made me feel safe, promising me that you'll always be there to protect me. I didn't want to tell myself that this feeling was all a lie.
It's not, Ellery. Trust me. I said, taking her hands into mine with a warm, genuine smile. It's my job to protect my friends. She grinned.
That's lovely to hear, that I am your friend. A true friend. My slave master said that to me once too, but he treated me less than human. He was a brute, not the merchant, but someone else. He owned me for a long while before I escaped. The torment and belittlement was too much to bear at one point. If I didn't leave, I was afraid that I would have done dark things to that man. And then, that merchant found me, alone, starved, in the middle of a deserted plain. He lured me with kindness, and then, I found myself being in the same situation as before. Granted, it was a lot less physical, but the mental brutality stayed the same. I was just an object, a tool of pleasure.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that, Ellery. Just know that you won't find any of that here. I am a fighter of the people, and Kai, while a little rough around the edges with newcomers, is a light warrior. General of Kirin's army. We are good people, and we aren't here to hurt you. We want you to feel safe here.
Kai said that you're a very important person. I could feel it, too.
I smiled. Yeah, she didn't want me to get into the specifics, but it's only a matter of time before you learn that I'm Kirin's son. Which makes me a sun god in Ligera as well. She gasped.
Kirin's son? I didn't even know he had a family here in Ligera.
That's because I don't think he does. I'm from Earth. Which makes me only a half-god, or demigod. Kirin is still supposedly missing in action on his planet.
Oh, wow. Now I feel terrible for asking a sun god to bathe me.
I laughed. Well, you shouldn't. You trusted me enough to do it, and I shamefully enjoyed it. Heh. I got up, not wanting to let the girls downstairs wait too long. I took Ellery by her hand, helping her up as well, where she looked at me lovingly. I hope you're feeling better about being around us, Ellery. I will talk with Kai about what she said. You have to excuse her. She's seen some things. And, you know, she's only out here saying that to you because she's worried about our mission being sabotaged.
Trust me, Lucian, I am not trying to harm you and Kai in any way.
I know that. I just have to convince Kai so we are all on the same page. I chuckled. It'll take her some time to see that. Until then, make it a habit of talking to me when you don't feel welcomed around us, all right? She blushed.
I really like you, Lucian. You're kind, gentle, considerate, and caring. There's really nothing not to love about you and what you stand for. A true warrior of the light. A true protector of mankind.
I'm just being me, Ellery. The only thing that changed was my title on this planet. It's how I was raised, to do good by people whenever I can.
I've heard of people praying for a miracle, wishing their son god Kirin would come back. Ligera's suffering had gone on for far too long. Why is Kirin allowing this to happen? Why isn't he here? Some were starting to lose faith in him. Because how could he allow Ligera to crash and burn? It seems like he had been on Earth, and he wasn't aware. The deterioration of our country is blind to him, but not to his son, Lucian,
she said, bringing herself closer to me.
Lucian, whatever brought you here, whatever made those stars align.
Her voice broke, Ellery breaking into tears again.
Words cannot express my gratitude.
My eyes softened on her, Ellery getting my chest fluttering. Maybe words cannot express. I whispered. Looks like you want to show me in another way.
I am not allowed.
She gasped, with my hand over her cheek. I'm giving you permission to. It was hard for her to see herself as anything but a sex slave. Maybe she didn't want to give me the wrong impression, but I didn't want her worrying about all of that. My thumb stroked that teardrop under her eye, her face begging at me. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of meeting her halfway. I wanted Ellery to have enough confidence to kiss me on her own. I had already given her permission, and she accepted it, getting on her tiptoes to brush her lips against mine. But that was all she did, brush our lips together, before she bolted out of my bedroom, probably feeling undeserving of my love. Chapter 24. One appreciated Ellery not trying to run off into the sunset or something. Maybe she went somewhere for a few minutes to mull things over, that almost kiss getting to her. For me, it was no different than kissing Kai or Isla. And I had to figure out a way to make her understand that. This label of untouchable was like a wine stain on a carpet. It wouldn't give way, making my task of getting her comfortable around us more difficult. Shit, thinking back about it now, maybe I shouldn't have told her that I was a demigod. I finally made it to the breakfast table, where Kai, Isla, and Lady Cecil were already eating. Isla noted she told everyone else to start without me because I'd been dragging my feet. No harm done, I would have said the same thing. Shortly after I sat down, Ellery joined, and I offered her a seat to my left, Kai sitting on my right. There were hostile rounds enough for everyone to get served, but I did my best with fixing the mood with banter and friendly vibes. From the sound of it, the Rasuni manor wouldn't need our extended help after all. The manor said the effort Kai and I put in last night may keep those shadow bastards at bay for a while. And while that meant I had less time with Isla, Kai, Ellery and I got to head out sooner to help the other districts in need. After breakfast, we had to part ways. It was tough saying goodbye, feeling like we'd just gotten here. Lady Cecil pulled me aside, asking the girls to wait at the entrance while we headed to her bedroom to get a bag she prepared for Ellery's travel. More of Lady Cecil being the kind-hearted woman that she was. And for someone with a large bedroom as hers to be so caring to an untouchable, it said a lot about her character. A real Victorian flair captivated me as soon as I walked in. Champagne gold wallpaper, candlelight sconces, tufted upholstered cushions, and a row of arched windows to let the natural lighting illuminate its regal radiance. A beautiful bedroom for a beautiful woman, both inside and out. I could tell Cecil had an idea what Ellery was as soon as she'd seen her, but after realizing she was okay to travel with me, she'd taken her in. Cecil stuffed the last bit of clothes in Ellery's bag before she walked up to me with bittersweet happiness on her lovely face.
I feel as if I must give back to the community in any way I can. I must confess, at first, I was against your new friend being here.
Yeah, it showed in your face. But, I'm glad you changed your mind and decided to open your heart and your home to her. She smiled.
I hope you understand why that is a hard thing for me to do. Even though you've only been here for a short while, you can see how being careless may lead to catastrophe.
She sighed.
Lucian, I hate to see you go, but I know you're in good hands with Kai. I will try talking to Isla. She most likely would like to see how the nights fare for a short while, to confirm that she can separate from this place. It's her home, and she only wants to make sure it is safe.
I can't see her doing it any other way, I said proudly.
Well, I don't want to keep your company downstairs waiting in the foyer, but...
Lady Cecil, what's wrong? She looked up to me coyly, a subtle blush blooming in her cheeks. Her smiling eyes were giving me mixed signals, Cecil's expressive body language leaning to one side more than the other. She made my chest sink, that sultry smile carrying its weight and motivation. Question was, would she carry it out? After all, I wasn't opposed. Cecil was a very attractive woman, a real MILF. But when she slammed my shoulders against the wall, she caught me off guard, that sweet woman by the garden with the sundress not so soft and gentle after all.
Lucian,
she sang, pressing up against me. Her chest was slightly bigger than her daughter's, and I remembered she was lactating, a mesh of dirty thoughts suddenly making me hard between my legs. The low V-collar cut wasn't helping me in my situation either, making me even more tempted. Banging Isla's mother wasn't part of the plan. But, she was still a lady of the court. So technically, I wouldn't be wrong for breeding with her. Lady Cecil. I gulped.
I wonder if I can give back to the community in a different way.
I wanted to comment on that, but my tongue was stuck on a ridiculous stutter.
I want to help repopulate my country too,
she said promisingly, cupping my jaw with her warm fingers. She leaned in for a slow gentle kiss, while her other hand stroked up and under my top. Lady Cecil was groping me, my eyes falling closed in pleasure, letting her wet tongue mingle with mine. It was a romantic slow French kissing that got me thinking about risking the consequences. Because how crazy would it be for Isla and her mother to both be pregnant with my kids? My second head, however, had a mind of its own, stripping my gear off, and my weapon. My slight strip show got her excited, Lady Cecil rushing to get my belt unbuckled. I reeled her lips to mine again, the both of us moving to get undressed like we were pressed on time. It was a quickie I wouldn't be proud of, because a refined woman such as Lady Cecil deserved more than a quick round of sex.
No.
She begged, and stopped me from unclasping her bra.
I'd like to leave it on.
Why? I panted, genuinely concerned. I was selfishly aware how badly I wanted to see her mommy breasts again, and couldn't understand why she was suddenly afraid to flash me. I'd seen them during feeding time, and if I could be honest, I wanted to taste myself.
I have a bad scar there, Prince,
she muttered under her breath, and I chuckled. Lady Cecil, you can't honestly think I am that shallow-minded? She looked up to me shyly, her nervous eyes begging at me. I gave her a gentle kiss on her forehead, down to her lips, over her chin, before planting a cluster of them down her collarbone. Nothing you're hiding under there can make me look away. I promise you that. You're gorgeous, both inside and out, Cecil. I reassured her, reaching over to unclasp her lacy red bra again. I slipped her long braided ponytail to the side, and undid the last loop, feeling the weight of her chest fall over mine. Her heart was racing, that once compressed and closed cleavage giving way. When I inched back, I noticed the scar she was afraid to show me, running vertically, at least a foot and a couple inches long.
I didn't think I'd ever make it out of that hospital bed,
she started, her voice quaking.
The surprise attack had everyone putting in work. But I was without a weapon, and my daughter, she had her own problems to deal with outside the perimeter.
Cecil.
The waves were closing me in, and I dealt with those parasitic small goblin-looking ones the best I could. I was ready to die that day, Lucian. I made for the subfloors, running for my life. But one of my guards, an elp, got to him. He sliced me wide open, realizing my light had worn out. Luckily Maverick heard my cries, and disposed of that dreaded shadow elp for me. Everything thereafter was a blur. But I remember Isla screaming my name, I remember faint memories of being in extreme pain. I remember hating myself for being so weak, and being a burden to my family. It's my duty to protect my daughter, not the other way around. But after my surgery, Isla vowed to never let another shadow elp get that close to me ever again.
Cecil, I said, cradling her lovely face affectionately. I want to make you that same promise. I don't want you ever backed up in a corner, or feeling so incredibly vulnerable. My father may not be around, but I am, and I swear to purge this world of monsters, so that you may never feel like a nuisance ever again. Cecil looked at me in tears, something in between crying and chuckling. Though, they were tears of happiness, Cecil letting her hands drop over my shoulders.
You've always been very kind and flattering with your words, Lucian.
I grinned. I also stand behind what I say. I leaned in with a kiss on her chest, taking the Lady of Rasani by surprise. I pressed my lips against her scar, slipping my hands underneath the dress hanging off her skirt, then hiked her legs over my bare hips. We only have a couple minutes, I whispered. Try to keep it quiet, all right? I winked, giving her a confident and cheeky snicker. I sat my chin in between those juicy breasts, and switched our positions, leaning her against the wall for more leverage. I worked my way inside her, the Lady of Rasani smothering her moans behind her mouth. The squeeze was tight, and it was only getting tighter the further down I stretched.
Oh, my, it's definitely been a while,
she gasped, her body tensing up on me. Just relax, it'll hurt less.
Ah, there is pleasure to be had with pain, Lucian,
she growled.
I want you to hurt me, Prince.
Well, I didn't want to disappoint the lady. I rammed my cock inside her, and Cecil took it all the way to that finish line. I pumped hard strokes inside her, giving that poor wall the works as well. Her body ricocheted with every thrust, the hard raw sex something that Lady Cecil was really into. She must have forgotten about the whole being quiet part, because Isla's mom had a real sailor mouth when she had a fat cock inside her.
That's right, Lucian. Fuck Mommy Rasani. Give me your seed. Let me harvest your children.
Oh yeah, they were definitely gonna hear that. But those dirty words coming out of that crazed voice were turning me on, making me pound her harder. Cecil was unhinged, rocking her hips over my cock, while feeding me both of those delicious fleshy nipples. Delicious warm sweet milk trickling down my tongue, fresh from the farm. Shit, I was going to blow. She kneaded her plump breasts while I sucked desperately on them. The surface of her areolas were heating up, and so was Cecil, her wet sex convulsing on me, holding me there while I broke into her. She reached her apex after I did, Cecil doing a terrible job with keeping that fact to herself. The echo bouncing against the walls pierced my ears, but I kept pounding her baby tunnel, down to the last drop.
Oh, Lucian.
Her voice shivered. Cecil, you've exposed us, I panted and chuckled.
I'm sorry. It was just too much.
She gasped.
My body couldn't hold it.
When I pulled out, I started to get what she was saying, all of that hot cum bubbling down her inner thigh. We did a sloppy job in cleaning up, Cecil still looking like a hot mess with her hair strands pasty with sweat. And me, well, I couldn't keep the slight boner at bay. Not to mention, my hair was a mess also. Only a shower could wash away this strong smell of sex between us, but Cecil was confident enough to brush down her dress before we went down those foyer steps. Looking at the girls camped in the front of the door. Oh yeah, they've been waiting for a hot minute. At the sight of us, they all got up, Isla already giving me an instigating squint while Kai looked at me flatly.
Sorry for the wait. I was just packing up Ellery a little starter traveling pack.
Lady Cecil said in an overly chipper voice.
Aw, for me?
Ellery cheerfully took Cecil's offer, strapping the bag over her back immediately.
Thank you so much.
No worries, dear.
Well, we should get going. Crap, I couldn't even say that with a straight face, Isla bouncing her offish glare to her mother. Thanks again, Cecil, for your hospitality. I bowed respectfully, so nervous and disheveled that I walked right into Ellery when I turned around. Oh, shit. Sorry. Ellery giggled. Bye Isla, Cecil. I waved, shoving Ellery toward the door with me.
See you later, sweetie.
Cecil farewelled, opening the front door for us, where I couldn't help but hear Isla's parting comment.
Mom, did you breed with my Dasha?
Chapter 25. I was so glad I didn't have to hear how that conversation went. I peeled off at the speed of light, knowing I had a habit of allowing my horny tendencies to speak for me in heated situations such as those. But, to be fair, I didn't regret it. Because frankly, it was part of my job. I was sure Isla understood that, didn't make it any less awkward, though. And the fact that she just confirmed she was my mate may have made that whole discussion even harder. Maybe if I'd slept with them at the same time, it would have eased the tension a little. As for Kai, she didn't have anything to say about it. She understood the rules, while Ellery couldn't stop giggling at the idea.
Both Lady Isla and Lady Cecil? Wow, to be part of the Baron family.
Heh, did she just indirectly say that she wanted to sleep with me?
Lucian has a duty to upkeep. He must continue to breed. I'd say he is going at a decent pace.
Kai followed, her voice still tight.
Being a mate or not, I am sure Isla will be just fine if her mother ends up being pregnant with Lucian's child. And just to verify, Isla is your mate, right Lucian?
I looked down to her, unable to read how Kai felt about Isla and I being together. But, why would she be off about it, right? Unless she wanted to be my mate as well. Yeah, I confirmed. Isla and I are a couple. And just as I said that, Kai nearly tripped on her step.
Oh, congratulations, Lucian. Is she your first mate?
I smiled. Yeah, I guess she is. I didn't even think of that, really. Too bad I'm not going to see her as often as I want to.
She will be fine.
Kai shot a bit coldly. Yeah, Kai had a bit of envy for her. And I understood why. But to be fair, I suggested that she was my first. Kai rejected it by reciting those stupid sun god rules about us not being able to be together. She had no one to blame but herself for that one, though my affection for her would never change. Kai may not be my first on paper, but she was my first at heart. And also the first Ligerian I slept with. We took a trip to downtown Rasani district to stock up on supplies. Mostly for Kai, who needed more arrows after her fight with some shadow elves. The manor's blacksmith had been busy forging for the soldiers in both wards, and Kai wanted to lighten the burden on him. Plus, she was in a hurry, so she mentioned going to a village market plaza to get her those enchanted arrows. Luckily for us, it would feel less black market-y and more like a traditional place of business. The walk there took a mean minute, but we got there without needing Naro, our furry lovable companion. After we would stock up on weapons, Kai planned on heading to the next district to meet the next lady, and some talk about clearing the area of elves thereafter. More shadow elf fighting? I was all for it, but once we reached the plaza, Kai noticed her pockets were practically empty.
I must have forgotten.
She whispered under her breath, the light warrior shuffling in her pockets for enlos.
About how much we spent on that very expensive slave girl.
Well, Kai had no problem making her resentment for that transaction known through her not-so-subtle glare at Ellery. I stepped in between them and tried to lighten the mood, taking Kai by her shoulder with a nervous chuckle. Hey, don't worry. We'll find a way to pay for your arrows, Kai.
I'm sorry, Light Warrior.
Ellery apologized, her face covered in guilt.
I'm sure we can get some money. I'll see what I can do.
Ellery then dashed off into the crowd, leaving us on top of that paved hill. She fled into the plaza like she had a plan, while Kai stepped to the side to double-check her pockets again.
Exactly how much was she, anyway?
Kai asked me. And to be honest, I didn't remember the price tag on Ellery either. It didn't matter. I tossed my crossed arms over my chest, ready to have that private conversation with Kai since Ellery stepped away for a minute. It was just me and Kai, and the huge elephant in the space between us. Kai, I need to talk to you about how you're treating Ellery. She lifted her head to me, appearing to be oblivious to what she'd done. I don't appreciate you going behind my back and putting words in my mouth. I never said I wanted her out. Luckily, I caught her in the hallway of the manor ready to head out on her own because of what you said. You really hurt her feelings back there, Kai. No one deserves to be treated like an untouchable, like a society reject. She may not be your friend, but she's mine, and I'd appreciate it if you will see her as such. Not an untouchable, not a sex slave, but a friend to the sun god.
Lucian, I was only looking out for you. You still have no idea how to use the pendant to see if she's a shadow elf or not.
A pendant she gave back to me. Would a shadow elf give me something that could potentially expose them?
Maybe she doesn't know anything about its power.
Kai retorted.
If you're so sure that she isn't a threat, make me confident in your theory. When she comes back, shine some light on her real identity.
Kai.
That's the only way I'm going to allow her traveling with us.
That's not your call to make.
Lucian, don't get confused. I may love you as a lover, but I also love you like my savior. And I'm not going to let one blind spot in your perception of her be your ultimate downfall. Use Kiran's pendant to reveal her true self and her true intentions.
You're being awfully biased, Kai. Just because she is labeled weak, unable to output a lot of mana, or light, or whatever we're calling power on this planet, she is considered unworthy and dangerous. I thought light warriors stand for justice and peace for all.
Yes, justice and peace.
She bit back, turning to face the blonde girl down the hill merrily approaching us. Then Kai turned back to me with an even more serious tone.
Do it, Lucian. I don't stand to order the light god around, but I hope this is the last command I'd ever have to give you. It's for your safety, and mine. Do you remember that, Lucian? You promised to protect me as well.
Shit, was she really using that card? Kai using my words against me?
She's coming.
Kai, I have no idea how to use the light to activate this thing. I crouched down and whispered to her.
The Mother Spirit said it was something that comes naturally. Make believe it's a weapon, an extension of your power. Give it a command, and it will perform. You won't know unless you try it, Lucian.
But wouldn't she know I'm using it against her?
What does that matter? We have every right to protect ourselves.
Crap, Kai wasn't backing off this one. I turned to my shoulder, that big ball of happiness closing in on us. Shit, what should I do? Hell, what should I say? I grabbed the gem in my fist, squeezing it tight, nervous as hell while Ellery approached us.
Hey! I may have solved our money shortage problem.
She beamed, Ellery panting and out of breath. She had her arms out, the girl hiding something in her cupped hands, and when she opened them up.
Money?
Kai asked, scrunching her face at her skeptically.
Yeah.
How did you get a hold of that?
Great, Kai had her distracted. Now was my chance to put that light warrior's worries to rest. There was nothing to be nervous about. I knew Ellery was safe, and with my father's gem in my fist, I concentrated the bare minimum of light output through me, directing my power to that power stone. Sure enough, the yellow rock started to absorb my light, my mind left in absolute awe. But I couldn't stop there. Kai had told me to give it a command, and it would execute my wish. Its abilities were limited, but the fact that it could reveal shadows in disguise was the best tool at our disposal right now. All right, you priceless piece of rock that almost got me killed on Earth. Show me the truth, so that I can prove to everyone that this kind soul isn't the enemy. I felt its pulse, my feet slightly shifting behind Ellery so she couldn't see my magic trick. Even though I had the light blocked by my hand, I was still emitting a glow, one that sent a jolt right up my spine. It tickled at first, and then it grounded me, the weight of the message unclear. Because as soon as the pendant's power started to travel through me, everyone around this light god started showing me their energy source. Dark energy, light energy, how I suddenly knew the difference was beyond me. Everyone carried a glow in their chest. Some were brighter than others, some barely visible at all. I imagined the level of intensity directly correlated to the power that person had, Kai's being the brightest in the plaza. But when I turned to Ellery, she didn't have any light at all. Nothing. Zilch. What the hell did that mean?
Pickpocketing.
Kai blared, shaking me out of my daze.
Well, I was running out of people willing to give me some out of the kindness of their hearts.
Ellery defended. I lowered my light output, flicking my hand off the pendant defeatedly. I was confused, and unsure of what to tell Kai. If I told her that Ellery came back inconclusive, she would still see Ellery as a threat just to be on the safe side, even though the girl wasn't attributed to shadows. Regardless, I needed to fix my face and my temperament between the girls. I couldn't let this discovery shield me from my truth in knowing Ellery wasn't who Kai said she was, giving them both a friendlier demeanor.
You need to give it back.
Kai ordered. No, she needs to go get us some more, we are broke. I interjected proudly.
Don't enable her. Stealing is bad.
And so is shunning an entire population because they are poor. So there, we are both in the wrong, I countered, crossing Kai without hesitation.
You say that as if I wished poverty on these borderline people.
Kai said to me, offended. You're still turning a blind eye. We are short on cash, and Ellery here can get us some. So turn a blind eye to that. Besides, all Ellery here wants to do is give you back the money you used to save her. Right, Ellery? I instigated, swinging an arm around Kai's shoulder. She nodded gleefully.
If that's the case, this is enough.
Kai said, snatching the coins from Ellery.
I don't want you going back there and stealing more of these people's money for me.
Oh, okay. You won't get any more stealing from me.
Here, I followed, taking a coin from Kai, ignoring the rejection off her face while I gave it back to Ellery. Go get yourself something to munch on for the road.
Sure. With this, I can get all of us something.
Ellery dashed off in a hurry, Kai and I moving right along behind her.
Seeing as you're still being nice to her, the reading came back in our favor?
Kai whispered to me, the smile on my face growing wider. Yup. I replied confidently. Kai's eyes went wide with astonishment.
So, Ellery really isn't a shadow elf?
Just like I said, Kai. You were worried about nothing. I told you she was safe. Now that we have solid evidence from the Sun Spirit, you can stop walking around like you hate her guts. Deal? She beamed.
Thank you, Lucian.
It was true, the pendant didn't confirm she was a shadow elf. For all we know, she could be human, right? She came back empty. All I did was not give Kai the details. Point was, Ellery was safe, and we were both happier for it. Although, it seemed that happiness was only temporary in Ligera. I must have batted my eyes over 100 times, trying to dismiss the scene I noticed down that hill. The crowd was dense, so I didn't know for sure. But I could have sworn I was seeing Ellery running away from us. Or was she running from that huge guy the size of a war tank? Wait a minute. Ellery! I shouted, peeling off from Kai, and running down into the plaza after her. Ellery!
Lucian.
Kai cried behind me, the girl faster than me on foot. I collided with the crowd, and between my body and that huge sword I had on my back, I was making noise in this wave. I shoved and I pushed, people shouting at me for being so aggressive. But I didn't give two shits. Some brute was chasing down my girl, and I needed to protect her. Chapter 26. I was losing sight of her. Once we stripped away from the plaza, I couldn't confirm her location. I had to rely on her screams to take me there, in a deep forest line I felt like I had no business being in. It was dense, Ellery's voice echoing down my path. The trail was coarse and the air was getting thick, the unkempt foliage doing little to provide me any type of visual on her. Every time she called my name, my speed pushed through. I was panting, running out of breath, my chest burning with my stride. I didn't call her back, I didn't give her kidnapper a hint. I wanted him to stay right there so I could catch him and his entourage. I could confidently say that this bastard had some help. Back there, it had looked like two other men were closing in on Ellery from the left and right. They'd cornered her, making it possible for the giant to snatch her up. The picture in my head thereafter wasn't clear, the crowd growing thicker. But one thing was for sure, Ellery had passed plaza lines and was tucked away in here. Somewhere.
Lucian.
Kai called, the both of us gradually making a stop. Ellery, I whispered, her cries disappearing on us. Shit. Where the hell have they taken her?
I hear horses.
Kai commented, her sense of hearing better than mine apparently. I didn't hear a damn thing, nothing but the sound of my lungs struggling to breathe.
To our left, here,
she said, and I followed, the disturbed ground carving out our next path. I elbowed my way through the foliage following Kai, stomping through branches and uproot that had been stepped on before. When I reached the end, a scene opened up to me, as did the forest, to a dead end with 4 figures in the foreground, and a cliff in the background. Ellery. My eyes burned, those brute heads already having stripped her down and gagged her up. I was heated, taking 2 bold steps before I could even process a game plan. Kai snatched my wrist to hold me back, warning me. I had a bad feeling about them too, besides the obvious threat to Ellery.
I should thank you for bringing her back to her big daddy,
the giant said, his grunting gravelly voice begging to be punched out. He had that smug grin on his face, from ear to ear, with a build as loud as my father's, maybe louder. He was brawny, bigger than me, and almost looked unhuman. And not to mention, he had his own weapon, its length about the same size as me. Safe to say, that double-headed axe wasn't sitting on his back just for show. The asshole even looked like a hunter, dressed in snake and bear skin, the fur on his head covering his black crown. The red paint around his dark eyes accentuated that serious glare he fed Kai and me, ready to protect and defend his property. Ellery. Ellery shouted behind the cloth they tied around her mouth, her roped naked body slung over a white horse. On the left of her, this tall lanky guy was just as equipped, bearing a short sword strapped to his hip. And on her right, a stocky dirty prick already pulling out his double flail, standing by his black stallion. You let her go. That's the only fucking warning you're going to get. I retorted, my hand gripping the hilt of my sword. He chuckled, looking down at us with heavy threatening eyes.
Do you know who the fuck you're talking to?
He spat back.
I am Gerald, the Sun Spirit Enforcer.
He boasted, stretching his arms out to bask in his own glory.
At the service of Ligera and the threatened wealthy class, chosen by the Sun God to enforce justice in our chaos.
The what? I didn't have to live in Ligera to catch that this pretentious jerk was blowing smoke out of his ass.
I was given a message by the Sun Spirit itself, told to purge the world of the poor to make room for the rich, so that Ligera may prosper.
I'm calling bullshit. I retorted, taking a bold step further. He grinned impishly.
Believe what you want, but it is clear in all 4 directions, Kiran has failed us. Fled from his home, abandoned his people. The Sun God made a decision years ago to pursue his own quest, and in the process, he left us wide open for abuse and punishment. The bastard never looked back, not once. Never questioned his poor decision. He never reflected on the impact this would have on his people. And it escalated to levels we couldn't control anymore, leaving our once beautiful and flourishing planet a cesspool for the void. Pouring out countless shadow monsters, running our districts amok. We are left here broken and damaged, left to fend on our own till the very end. What kind of king could allow such destruction in his very kingdom? On his once strong nation?
He grunted, crossing his arms over his chest.
A selfish one. A coward. And I for one will no longer stand by and watch my planet crumble under the weight of these invading shadows. It is up to me to make this world right again. And I will not rest until this planet is pure, from low breeders of the light, to insatiable shadow demons of the void.
I will not idly stand here and let you tarnish King Kiran's name.
Kai barked back, engaging her weapon.
I fail to believe that the Sun Spirit has given someone like you, a pompous buffoon, the right to contain this worldly threat. One so low as to even own a slave woman.
And what of yourselves?
We rightfully purchased her, from the hands of a merchant along the Rasani border.
Kai stepped up and admitted, leaving the giant unfazed.
She is ours.
He grunted, giving us a toothy grin.
Unrightfully so. My little doll ran away from home, and the merchant decided not to play. Instead, he figured he'd catch a profit and sell my Ellery to the highest buyer. So, technically, she was robbed from me. Your fun with her is at its end, and I've come to claim back what's mine. I hope she was worth the price tag.
He winked, his armed goons stepping to his side to protect him.
Wait a minute. Now that I think about it, you look awfully familiar.
He addressed Kai.
That is because I am a general in the Sun God's army. I am Kahaya of Rado, guardian of Ligera, warrior of the light.
He sneered, tossing his arms arrogantly to his sides.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen! You're one of Kirin's ass-kissing armored braggarts. Practically worthless now without Kirin barking orders at you, huh? Which is funny, seeing how you're now part of the working population. While you're out here bashing me for owning an untouchable, you're out here doing the same. I get it, we all get lonely at times, but don't stand here and preach to me, hypocrite. Ellery is mine. Though, I'm sure there are many others laying around. But you better pluck one up quick, before I send them to the darkness, permanently.
We only purchased Ellery to protect her from criminals like you.
Kai fired back.
The Sun Spirit would never order anyone to terminate innocent lives. Your account of being the chosen one is a lie. There stands only one messenger of the Sun Spirit.
And he is standing right in front of you. I followed, finally breaking out my backbreaker. I am Lucian, guardian of Ligera, son of Kirin. I am taking his rightful place as protector and overseer of Ligera. The goons looked back at me, upset. My father is many things, but he isn't a selfish coward. He had a reason for leaving, to protect Ligera. And yeah, that plan backfired, but I'm sure if he'd known the condition his world was in, he'd be heading back in a heartbeat. So you can hate his guts and slash his name. And I don't blame you for being mad at how things turned out, but I am here now to make things right, making me the only true enforcer this planet needs. And slaying the poor and the weak is definitely not part of the plan. He snorted at me, my glare fixed on the fake warrior. I will right the wrongs he has done to Ligera, bringing every shadow walker to their knees. My little monologue would be interrupted. For some reason, those two goons looked at me funny, then sprung in, full force. Even Gerald was taken aback, not having had given them word to strike, those two bastards eager to snuff me out. And I had no problem with that, entertaining their retaliation with my godly light. But the longer we clashed heads, the more I began to get why my presence offended them. There was something off about this entourage Gerald had been traveling with. When they got close, I could feel my father's pendant sending impulses through me. Almost like a tap on the shoulder, warning me about these two opponents desperate to defeat me. At first, I ignored it, being more distracted with blocking their approach. But as seconds slipped by, I started to understand the message. The darkness stained black, and the light glowed bright. The gem around my neck stripped their disguises clean off. Gerald's lanky and stocky sidekicks were shadow elves. Truthfully, I wasn't surprised. Evil came in many shapes and forms, and these two radiated bad energy. Only problem was that Gerald here was shining bright like a diamond, the pendant representing him as an actual carrier of the light. Which meant that he had no idea that Jasper and Horus here were part of the void. Kai watched from the sidelines, not interfering with my match. But she didn't stand dormant for long, turning over to Gerald, who was having a difficult time registering how easily I was taking care of his two disciples. I disposed of their weapons like child's play, chucking the incoming flail at the rim of my sword over the cliff, then followed with jabbing the butt of my BB into the stocky one's gut, disarming him with a counter swing. I barely missed slicing his wrist right off, my speed catching him off guard. He must have dropped it out of fear. This little show for Gerald these two were performing soon to end.
Save yourself the trouble, corrupt enforcer of the light,
Kai taunted, pointing her arrow at the baffled Gerald.
Leave Ellery here with us, and we will spare you your life.
Chapter 27. Kai stood behind her threat, and I imagined she wouldn't let this bastard walk. After all, he'd just admitted to killing untouchables, going against everything Kai and I stood for. Protect, preserve, and prosper. I had a motto, and I wasn't ready to drop it. And with Gerald walking around slaying innocent lives, it was my responsibility to keep him off the streets. He could rot in jail for all I cared, but Gerald wasn't having Kai's mouth. He broke out his weapon, that heavy metal double-headed axe from over his shoulder, showing the both of us that he wasn't ready to back down anytime soon.
Has scum.
He growled, that smile on his face finally waning down.
This whole planet is doomed with sickos like you walking around like you're hot shit, calling yourselves task takers. Better yet, son of Kirin.
He bellowed.
You can't see the message behind the light, just like the rest of these commoners. But you're worse than them, trying to undo my godly work, and stand in between me and my mission.
We aren't the ones getting in the way of peace, I countered. But if you want roadblocks, your henchman can fit that bill for you. He narrowed his eyes on me. You're walking around boasting your God-given title. Yet, you can't even see that the people you work with are the enemies you promised to destroy. Kai looked over her shoulder at me stunned. That's right. These two buddies of yours are shadow elves. And judging by your face, you had no fucking clue. Gerald gasped. Looks like the only thing the three of you have in common is being impersonators, I taunted, having every right to be arrogant with him. He was triggered.
You lying son of a bitch!
Well, if you're so sure they aren't elves, then go ahead and tell them to show you some light. I demanded. They are unarmed. And from what I understood, imposters wield shadows instead of light even after they hijack a Ligerian.
That's not always the case, Lucian.
Kai corrected me.
Normally this is true, outside of a shadow elf with an elite booster trait full possession. With that booster, they can wield light, just like you and I, and remain undetected. Trust me, if it were that simple, we'd have controlled this infestation years ago.
Damn it, she was right. And I knew Gerald here wasn't about to take my word for it, even if I had the light's core.
Wow, that's common knowledge by now. Pretty pathetic that this so-called guardian of light didn't know anything about booster traits. You insult my intelligence with these theories. My men are trustworthy and loyal to me and me alone.
Gerald shouted, squaring himself to strike me. Looks like there was going to be a fight between us after all. He was set on those two being clean, so I had to figure out what I'd be up against. I thought to myself, trigger stats, as I looked at Gerald. Triggered stats. Name, Gerald Moadu. Race, Ligerian. Class, wealth producer. Role, hunter. Level, 99. Experience, 65,799,000. Points to be allocated, 0. Agility, 55. Brawn, 84. Charisma, 32. Core range, 324. Health, 9,909,900. Light energy, 100%. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, double-bladed axe armed. Weapon EXP, 8805. Weapons durability, 68,100. Skills. Light classes learned. Banag, device that allows user to draw light energy to create a transparent hardening shield around specific areas of the body. Light-enabled abilities, hidden. Weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items. Era's Brew, portable portal of probable proportions. Shit. He was almost at the same level as Kai.
Looking at my stats, huh? Smart kid.
He chuckled.
You should see the look on your face right now. You know that you're fucked. I'll teach you to respect the Chosen One. The Enforcer of Light. The rightful heir to the new kingdom of Rato.
Confident little meathead, wasn't he? To be fair, he had a good reason. I terminated his stats, trying to figure out how I was going to dominate someone basically 80 levels ahead of me. I needed to change my approach, find out his flaws and exploit them. I couldn't kill Gerald, only wrangle him. He wasn't a shadow elf, just a criminal who needed some disciplining. Kai understood the assignment and helped even out the numbers. I had 2 opposers to my back and 1 big one to my front. She loaded her bow, pointing her arrow my direction, while I confidently allowed her to take out the trash. 1 shot off my shoulder for the stocky one, and another shot for the lanky one. Chest shots all around. Kai made it look simple, the speed on those arrows ridiculous. She gave those 2 guys the same fate as Nicole, except for 1 arrow each. My guess, those 2 were lower leveled, and maybe Nicole had been a stronger foe. But when Gerald turned his head to look at the explosion, I noticed something familiar from the first shadow elf I defeated on this planet. Steam and black smoke. I whispered to myself.
There, your evidence.
Kai said to Gerald.
You don't need me or Lucian to tell you now that they were in fact shadow walkers.
I guess the black smoke and whistling steam after their deaths were a sign. But instead of Gerald being thankful, he was growing more upset because we'd exposed them.
You 2 think that I'm stupid? Trying to defame me? Make me out to look pathetic and incompetent? Because how could I call myself an enforcer, if I can't even spot 2 shadow jackers traveling with me for months?
He growled, turning to face me.
We do not have the power to draw the veil and reveal our enemies, but Lucian here does.
Shut up!
He roared.
You're just as bad as Kieran. There stands only one enforcer of the light, and that's me. Me. You two just got lucky, two jealous pricks out to discredit what I do and replace my role. You go on and continue believing in what you believe in. It's not going to matter once you're dead.
It was show time. I kept my focus on Gerald, my feet propelling off the ground to meet his overhead swing. He brought a lot of strength into the fight, but in that strike, he left his body open for punishment if he missed. And sure enough, he did, my speed outmatching his by a hair. I pivoted to the side, expecting to clip him in the right rib, but Gerald saw me coming. He snatched my sword, pressing down on it without a problem. Shit, what the hell was going on here? This dude took the blade end of my backbreaker in his hand like it was nothing. The power of the light was behind him, his hand glowing a violet gold hue, signifying his protection. I was showing him resistance, the friction he was delivering bent on breaking into my weapon like paper. I shouldn't have underestimated this proud foe enforcer, his strength powerful enough to yank me and my sword clean off the ground. I went flying, higher and faster than I expected. This aerial view gave me a full scope of this battle arena I found myself in, and I had to think of a new approach with this guy if I wanted to win. Ever since I'd been awakened, I fought to kill. I may have to treat Gerald like a shadow elf, because this guy wasn't about to spare me any strikes. I tightened the hilt of my sword, still levitating in the air, before gravity started to push me back down. Think it, and it will manifest. Isla's words ran through my body, giving me the confidence to bring this guy down. And myself down as well. Luckily, I wasn't afraid of heights, riding the winds down with the force of my light. I launched like a torpedo at Gerald, with my sword cocked back and my aim hot and ready. All right, asshole. Let's do this your way. He was ready for me, giving himself a running start. That malicious grin on his face only fueled my light, the power of the sun coursing through my veins filling my weapon with a righteous strike. Clash, his axe exploded with my blade, the heat of our powers dispersing in a ring of gust beneath our feet. Surprise, surprise, the asshole wasn't all talk after all. Gerald was a different kind of foe, one who wouldn't bend easily like those shadow elves I had fought in the Rassani Manor. He was a high-leveled seasoned veteran, making him even more dangerous than any foe I'd fought. It was exciting to say the least, finally something to test how far I could go. I was glad that Kai stepped aside and allowed me to handle my own. She had to have known his level easily surpassed mine. The sound of metal grating against metal sparking between us, Gerald leaning his mass into me. He had the heels of my shoes sinking into the ground, and I was fighting to hold my own. My backbreaker needed to step it up a notch, but I could feel the friction starting to take its toll on my blade.
I'm impressed,
Gerald complimented.
But judging by the condition of your sword, this match isn't going to last much longer. Your durability must be low. I'm shocked you made it this far with that toy strapped on your back.
Hell, what did I expect? My weapon's EXP was laughable compared to his. I needed to get out of this sticky situation I carelessly got myself in, and stop this godly ego from getting to my head. Being a demigod meant nothing if I couldn't manage my stats right or fight strategically. That one opening I had a few seconds ago had backfired, and now I couldn't tip the scale over. Not when I had my back against the wall. I had to branch off immediately unless I wanted to be sliced in half, letting his axe glide upward, allowing me to duck and roll before he slammed his weapon down. I felt the earth move with that attack, Gerald not slowing down one bit. He sliced the air in half as he came at me, the flurry of heat smacking my face with every swing. Grunt after grunt, this enforcer proved his worth as a fighter, pushing me against the ropes, not giving me enough time to scramble myself so I could defend my stance properly. At some point, the bastard took my ass to the ground with all of that relentless pressure, and I was forced to unload a round of shots into him. His axe met my sword again, the machine gun at the hilt of my weapon starting to churn and heat up. Gerald took notice, which was the plan, but the bastard didn't move. What the heck was he doing? Planning on taking on a full barrage of bullets to the gut? I might have spoken this shit into existence, those enchanted 50 caliber shells bouncing off his glowing six-pack like spitballs. I witnessed this sorcery as it unfolded, having front row seats to this wild show. My eyes grew wide, my jaw hanging off the floor. If I hadn't seen it with my own two eyes, I would have denied it without a second thought. The best I did was manage to shove Gerald a bit, every bullet pushing him back a centimeter while his torso absorbed my shots. I mean, this was some enchanted firepower we were talking about here. How was his light strong enough to take on a machine gun? I had to stop fantasizing on the range this guy had on him and act quickly. I capitalized on the distance growing between us, and it'd be a Hail Mary shot, but if he could do it, so could I. Somehow, he was crystallizing his body to protect his skin. I assumed the method was the same, think it, and it will manifest. But when I allowed Gerald to drop my sword and exchange it with my hand, I didn't get the same results as he did. I grunted, the sting of that blade slicing through my palm the worst. I was trying to cover a wider angle so I could slip him off me, but it backfired. Luckily, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. After all, he may have surpassed me in stats, but my light power was stronger than his because of dear ol' dad. Regardless, that axe was heavy, and it continued to cut through me while my light supported its size. I caught Gerald for a tailspin. He wasn't expecting me to do something so insane. Sorry, I didn't catch the memo, and apparently, this trick wasn't something everyone could do so easily. Which meant I had a few things to learn if I was going to be the best light guardian I could be. I was about to lose my edge. I needed to flip the switch on this guy fast. With my left hand, I grabbed my back breaker and swept upward, expecting to slice the prick's arm clean off. To no avail. Great, another crystallization. I was fucked down here, wasn't I?
Heh! All of this for a worthless girl. Stop being selfish. You already have a woman strapped to you. Or do you just like the power that comes from controlling a slave?
Ellery's a human being, and she deserves to be seen as such. I struggled under my breath, the surge of light between us making me sweat.
Don't let that pretty little face get to your head. She is trash, just like the others. But I'll give it to you, kid. You turned out to be stronger than I thought. If you weren't on the wrong side, I would have definitely taken you up as an apprentice.
I snickered. Apprentice, huh? I should be honored. And just like that, I dropped my weapon, grabbing his arm instead. I was told that the weapon is just an extension of my power. Can you imagine the kind of damage my light can do head-on? For a god of light like me? I gave him that looming glare, one that had Gerald shitting his pants. I made my grip tight, letting my fingers sink into his skin. I summoned a lot of power into the shot, my chest burning from this intense light coursing through me. I concentrated the angle and triggered my explosion, finally pushing Gerald off of me. A light show, an earth-shattering doomsday shot. I was desperate, causing a roaring stir, the ground beneath me coughing of fumes and debris. My own blast had my ass grating the floor from being shoved from the impact, and when the smoke began to drop, I had a clearer picture of the damages I'd done.
Lucian.
Kai cried, rushing toward me. I tried to pick myself up, my smoky arm shielding my face while I hacked up floating rock bits from the air. My wounded hand clenched my chest, that output risky for someone with my core range. I had to thank my dad's pendant again for the save, noticing that faint pulsing glow on the gem slowly tittering away. As for Gerald, he got lucky, my grip having slipped off of him just as he tried to escape the explosion by the skin of his teeth. It made Kai stop dead in her tracks, my light warrior distracted with the prick rising from the smoke.
You're a piece of work, you know that?
His raspy voice grumbled, the smoke screen opening up to him standing there with blood splattered to his left, and his arm exposed along the side. Finally, one on the scoreboard for me. It was a wild guess, but a good one. These weapons were meant to maintain the duration of light for the user, and worked best for shadow elves. But this wasn't a stamina match, and I needed a better power boost. And what better place to get that but straight from the source?
Crafty kid. You managed to break my guard.
Gerald was leaking red, his arm stripped, the muscles on his bones exposed for us to see. I hadn't shattered any bones by the looks of it, but I managed to disable him, the crook still walking toward his axe while he cradled his arm to his side.
I might not have given you enough credit. Up close, I could see the resemblance.
He threatened, scooping up his axe from the ground with his good arm.
Lucian, god of light. Heh. Yeah, you're Kieran's kid all right. You look just like him, but your fighting style is sloppy. Needs work.
Gerald, stand down.
Kai ordered, pointing her weapon at him. It was then I noticed Ellery covered in Kai's cloak. Kai had untied her, and she was standing a few steps behind Kai, that feeble glimmer in her eyes looking back at me helplessly.
I'm not backing down, light princess.
He spat back spitefully.
Because you see, I can't have Kieran's seed repeating history. We have already fallen as a nation. The last thing we need is another selfish, careless light god inviting the enemy into our backyards. Kieran might not be here, but his son is, and I will gladly hold him accountable for his father's actions. I can never forgive him for what he's done to my people.
You're fighting for the wrong cause.
Kai retorted.
And if you can't see that Lucian is here to save us, then you are lost. And there is no future for you, but the one behind bars.
Cute little threats. But I'd say you all found yourselves a break with me today. Because only a fool would go against a god and his general one-armed.
Was he backing down? Better yet, did he really think he was about to leave here unchained?
I'll see you around, rejects.
Lucian!
Ellery cried, the frailty in her voice telling me to stop this guy.
Don't you think for a second we are going to allow you to leave here freely?
Kai cried, launching an arrow at him. I didn't know what I expected, but that counter along his axe's blade wasn't one of them. He served Kai with a lofty smile too, the trajectory of that arrow going aerial, where it exploded like fireworks. Kai didn't waste another shot on him, not without planning.
Outnumbered, but not outskilled.
He commented fleetingly.
I guess I'm gonna have to treat you like the others after all, dollface. I need an escape route. It's been fun while it lasted,
he said to Ellery, before he hauled that giant axe over his head, then struck it down into the earth. No one had a clue. No one. It happened so fast that it felt like my brain temporarily turned off. That slicing line of wind had an arrow trajectory, and it was heading right for Ellery. I launched, my heavy steps rushing with the power of light as my booster. I fought the current from Gerald's strike slowing me down, but it wouldn't matter. Because if Kai, who was standing closer to her, couldn't catch her in time, then neither could I. Ellery! The whipping torrent took her, snatching Ellery off her feet. Her body jolted, right over the cliff, where the last thing I saw was that fragile and frightened look on her face begging me to save her. I didn't get very far, not with something suddenly snatching my hood. When I turned around, I noticed the bastard had impaled my sword clean through my cape, slowing me down. By the time the torrent ceased and Kai closed in on her, it had already been too late. And once the image of Ellery disappeared in my eyes, all that was left was this mind-numbing emptiness eating me from the inside out. No, I couldn't let her die like this. I let the blade to my sword tear through my hooded cape, storming forward. I was ready to launch myself after her, but Kai grabbed my shoulder back, stopping me from rescuing Ellery.
Don't, Lucian. She's gone.
Kai cried. No, I could still hear her wailing. I snapped my shoulder back, only for Kai to step in front of me again, trying to talk some sense into me. Kai, get out of my way.
Lucian, you're not immortal. I don't want to lose you too,
she begged, tears streaming down her face. No. I promised her. I promised. I shook, my body suddenly filling up with blunt rage. You fucking bastard. I roared, turning over my shoulder to Gerald, who had long escaped. My breath was shot, the empty forest lines looking back at me, taunting me. I'd failed Ellery. I promised to protect her, and I fucking failed her. But then, something behind me exploded, with a violent torrent to shake this forest down to its core. I looked back at the gaping chasm that had swallowed Ellery, my face intercepted by this whooshing black electric pillar shooting into the sky. It nearly clipped me, but its force managed to bring Kai and I to the ground. The range and speed of that dark energy caught upward without rest. It spread, filling every inch of that chasm in black, Kai pushing the both of us back for safety. It pulsated and grunted, swayed and turned. It looked like an unnatural disaster waiting to happen, the sky absorbing its essence, covering the clouds and the sun in black. What the hell? I looked up into the sky, marveled and afraid. Kai stood up on her feet, bearing witness to a brewing Armageddon. Chapter 28. What the hell is happening? I asked, turning to Kai. My heart was racing, the gorge that swallowed Ellery was spewing out pulsating energy I'd never seen before.
I am not sure,
she said, her voice rattled, her eyes gaping upward. Could it be the void? Are shadow elves behind this?
I don't know.
Why is the gorge spitting out this dark shit? What the hell was in there? It didn't look like Kai was in any hurry to find out, rushing over to my sword, and easily hauling it over her shoulder toward me.
Something tells me that we don't have much time.
Much time? Before what? She narrowed her eyes on me seriously.
Whatever this is, it can't be good. And we need to get back to the plaza so that I can get my arrows. I only have about 5 heads left.
She took my wounded hand, making quick work with healing me. I bypassed the stats screens that triggered with every healing action, barely noticing that my experience didn't shoot up. As to be expected, I had allowed that motherfucker to walk. Once Kai healed me up, she handed me my sword, and the both of us pressed forward. Ellery's death had my heart heavy. I could barely move a fucking muscle, feeling my head ready to explode. But I kept behind Kai, that eerie feeling stifling the air and stuffing my chest. A looming feeling passed over me, one I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. And to make matters worse, this spreading darkness in the sky was like rapid fire, stretching over the plaza street, making everyone scatter in a horrified frenzy. The wind got violent, slicing through us as it went uphill. It was picking up speed and power, the cyclone tossing vendor stands, whipping through trees, and shaking homes. The calamity rang in my ears all right, and we both still had no idea what the hell was causing all of this. People fought to stay on the ground, others quickly escaping into buildings just so they could have a roof over their heads. Not the best option for what felt like a hurricane crashing in on Rasani, but I hope they had an underground bunker or safe house to hide in until this storm passed.
I pray that he has some in stock,
Kai said just as we reached Moglo's arsenal storefront. We dove right in and raided, Kai rummaging through his catalog, behind that register, on the top shelves, everywhere. The lights in the place flickered, the blackness from the sky covering us all like a blanket. Soon, it was going to get pitch black in Rasani, leaving the Ligerian people vulnerable for another Shadow Elp attack.
I found a few,
Kai said, making her way back to me from the backside storage unit. She reached into her pocket and took out a couple of coins, then slammed it on the counter. The light warrior quickly stuffed her leather quiver, her eyes then looking up over my shoulder to the skies above.
Rasani is in trouble, it's blocking the sun.
That means whatever power we have on reserve is all we have to fight with, I added.
Yes, and the shadows will capitalize on our disadvantage,
Kai said, then looked back at me sympathetically.
I am sorry about Ellery, Lucian.
She took my arm, her eyes turning serious.
I know she meant a lot to you. Let's defend our home for her, and for everyone else who has been a victim of hate. We need to protect the people of Rasani district. There's no telling how far this curse has spread. But for now, we will manage what we can.
My face softened on her. Kai, if the Shadow Elps can block the sun permanently, what does that mean for Ligera as a planet?
By the Sun Spirit and the Mother Earth Spirit. Ligera as a nation will not let that happen.
I could tell in her temperament that Kai didn't think the Shadow Elps were capable of something this dire. And it made sense. Because if they were, why strike now? What event moved all the pieces to their court? I couldn't help but feel like Ellery's fall was somehow connected to this. I didn't know how, but I just knew it was. So the both of us left that weapon shop, and stood there under chaos, waiting for when that amorphic film of darkness finally swallowed the sun behind it. And that's when the monsters would all come out and play. Not even a fraction of a second later, we started hearing the grunts and growls. I summoned a ball of light in my hand, the only light down at the plaza. Shadows started to crawl out from the depths and tucks of buildings, behind trees, streetlights, and benches. They slithered on the pavement like nightmares, unafraid and unbothered by our presence. I'd hate to think that we were the only ones out here to fight, but it looked as though all of Rasani down this hill was in a hurry to escape from the unknown.
We stand and fight,
Kai exclaimed, drawing her bow and arrow. Kai, there's too many of them, I followed. And we are both limited. We don't have any backup here.
It doesn't matter. We will not let the darkness take over again.
Her voice shook. This was a personal vendetta I couldn't get behind. The way Kai was talking felt more emotional than tactical. I got it, she'd been there 2 years ago. She was at the front lines fighting to defend her nation. This scene must have triggered flashbacks. But this was downright suicide. Everyone else noticed it. That was why they went to find cover. And that was what we should do too, find cover, or at the very least, get help. So I grabbed Kai's wrist, those once amorphic creatures starting to take form as they circled us, two crazy victims stupid enough to stand in the middle of an actual horde. Kai, we need to go.
I'm not leaving until every last one of them is snuffed out.
Kai! I shouted, putting myself in front of her. She lowered her bow when I took her shoulder, my gentle yet stern eyes demanding her. We will head back to the manor, and help Isla and Cecil defend. Out here, we are outnumbered. And I made you a promise, didn't I? I'm not ready to break my word again.
Lucian.
Trust me, Kai. We aren't falling back, we are playing it smart. And the only way we can do that is with help. It took her some time, but she understood. She gave me a sure nod, and we ran uphill, ready to carve our path up to the Rasani manor. Next scene. Ellery continued to run through my mind as Kai and I carved a path to the Baron's manor. My blade sliced through shadows, my light making dust out of our enemies. The harder I fought, the more I reminded myself that I wasn't strong enough to save her. It wasn't as easy as I thought. I might have been the light god, but this whole manifesting mana, or power, into anything I thought of was not completely natural to me. And I had paid the price for not understanding the depth to my own strength, from that gush on my hand that Kai had healed, to the death of a girl who was just struggling to find her place in this broken world. The last images of her haunted me, fueling my rage, providing power to my swings. My blade blazed with light as I slashed. I swore if anything, I would avenge her death. I could do that much, after I so terribly allowed her to die like that. By the hand of the man who had abused her no less. Gerald wanted a way to hurt me. He found that through Ellery, noticing how much I cared for her. All because of what my father did. It wasn't fucking fair. It wasn't fucking right. And while my heart bled chords of pain and sorrow, I thought of all the ways I could better myself, to properly protect these Ligerian people to the best of my capabilities. I needed training, honing, the know-how to execute my inner light in a way I wouldn't lose. That asshole had a unique trait in warping his light. I needed to learn that. And if there were more tricks, I'd learn those too. Anything for an edge, to get stronger, more powerful. I was a fucking light god for shit's sake. Ellery's death wasn't supposed to happen. I gave a loud battle cry, my full power swing slicing the last of these relentless shadow giants. They were a lot smaller than the first shadow elf I'd encounter in Ligera, but still taller than Kai and I by a wide margin. Kai needed to reserve her arrows, and instead of blowing them up, she was simply impaling them and reloading her bow. It immobilized them, leaving them open for my finishing blow, a horizontal slice through the neck. She reserved more power with my help this way. The decapitations were horrifically messy, these shadow freaks fighting us outside of their natural element. Solidifying themselves gave them physical strength to fight back, but it left them just as open for abuse. It didn't matter to me how they approached us, because the end result would stay the same. I wasn't holding back, our efforts leading us right to the Rasani manor. I didn't think I'd get to see my girlfriend again this soon. I just wished it was under different circumstances. Sure enough, she was out in the front putting in work with her guards and soldiers by her side. Even Cecil was part of the battle, both of them sword fighters. I got to see Isla slashing and hacking again in action, only this time, she seemed visibly stronger. Her light output took it up a notch, leaving Kai and I floored. The representation at a distance looked like whipping light blades dancing in the darkness. I was impressed to say the least, but once Kai and I got closer, we got to witness the extent of this shadow elf infestation.
Shit. Just how many of these annoying things are there?
Isla cried out, fighting back to back with Lady Cecil. They were nightmarish blobs without a definite form, almost looking like children's drawings. What was weirder was that these blobs were oozing from the sky, dropping in numbers over the estate. They might have been easy to slash, seeing as they weren't solidified, but they were eating at their stamina. This could have been a strategy for something worse to come, tucker them out now, and lead the way to something bigger coming in the future. I wasn't going to let that happen. I wielded my sword, squeezed my fist around the handle, and loaded up. It's about time we clean house, I grunted under my breath, and then unleashed hell on those monstrous freaks. One by one, I locked round after round of ammunition into these terrorists. I shot them as they dropped from the sky, while letting Isla and her army clear out the ones that had already landed. My rounds managed to also disrupt and agitate that shadow slate in the sky, which seemed like an entire being of its own. Every bullet lodged sent waves of impact into it, grunts coming from the void above making me skeptical. Kai was thinking the same thing, we could be in for more than we bargained for. And once the horde over us lightened up, Kai and I pushed forward.
Prince.
Lady Cecil cried, her voice rattled.
You're all right.
Lucian,
Isla welcomed me, with a tight hug and a hard kiss.
Thank goodness the both of you are okay.
Kai, Lucian, what is happening to our planet?
Lady Cecil begged, her soldiers in armor suddenly swarming us.
We need to head to the bunker at once.
Maverick ordered, my eyes turning to her most trusted guard. I couldn't agree more, I said. That thing over our heads is alive. We might have cleared the area now, but in about a minute, we are bound to get swarmed again. We find shelter now, regroup, and compose a plan to stop this next disaster before it escalates. Chapter 29. Okay, I wasn't expecting this underground bunker to look just as luxurious as the actual barren manor. I imagined concrete rooms with tight spaces, cots, and storage units with canned goods. But this area was anything but gray and bleak, and I couldn't even tell the difference between up there and down here, besides the lower ceilings and the lack of windows. We'd been escorted to a new world, where the space seemed endless. Kai and I were given the grand tour, where even the guards, servants and maids had a place to sleep at night. There was a library, a bar, a pool, not to mention, a training dojo with a weapons court as far as the eye can see. I needed a minute to take it all in, the beauty behind a second underground home stripping some of that stress over my shoulders away.
This space was supposed to serve as a doomsday bunker, covering all sorts of categories.
Lady Cecil described as Kai, and I stood in awe.
We don't know what to expect from these shadow Alps, so this section under our home has been around for a while, and has been well kept since then,
Isla said.
Light power systems, water purification tech, blast valves, anything you can think of, we have it.
Damn, what money can buy.
We have rations that could last us a year. But I pray it will not take us that long to resolve this horrendous problem of ours. Not with you by our side.
Lady Cecil prayed, taking my arm in lovingly.
Prince, this home is your home. Please, make yourself comfortable.
but not too comfortable.
Isla chimed in, looking over to me sternly.
We need to figure out what we are going to do about our lack of sun problem.
Praise the sun, we all needed it. Every air-breathing Ligerian here needed it. And without the power of the light, we'd eventually run out of defenses. The idea of being sitting ducks didn't sit right with me. And while Lady Cecil insisted that we wash up and settle down for the night, I couldn't keep the condition we were in out of my mind long enough to enjoy myself in this glorious bunker. I was given a bedroom, and to save on space, I had Kai and Isla there with me. The area might have been updated, but it couldn't accommodate the new hires Lady Cecil had on board recently. Which was fine, I didn't mind sharing my space, although that tiny mattress may have me sleeping on the floor for tonight. That wasn't going to be a problem, anyway. I wasn't in the sleeping mood. Kai and Isla cleaned up and got comfortable, while the only thing I did was wash the blood off my skin. Isla called me stubborn, I called it tired and defeated. And once I teased her about wanting to just see me out of my clothes, she didn't bother me about it again.
Just know that you're not getting in this bed unless you change.
She barked at me from the bed, dressed in her pajamas. Kai was dressed to sleep too, but she sat on the floor right next to me. Kai had her eyes on the sun god, watching how that smile from Isla's bickering slowly faded from me. I felt Kai staring, so I turned my eyes over to her, the expression on her face asking me a million questions. How about you start with one? I said, trying to show her a happier Lucian.
Would you like something to drink?
No, I'm good.
This is nuts. How does the goddamn sky suddenly turn dark on us? It makes no sense. It's hard to imagine that this wasn't something they were planning to do from the start.
And Ellery's death triggered it, I confessed, Isla looking at me startled.
What? You mean that girl you two were traveling with is dead?
I turned my head away from her, bothered by the discussion ready to happen. I'd rather not talk about it. Isla's voice softened.
I'm sorry, Lucian. Really? But does that mean that she was a?
No, I quickly intercepted that train of thought. Her assumption had my blood going, but it wasn't Isla's fault. She had no clue what I meant by her death. So I took a deep breath, ready to elaborate. This son of a bitch pushed her into a gorge. He had been chasing her down at the plaza, him and his two goons, who happened to be shadow elves in disguise. Gerald. I sucked my teeth. Fucking asshole who swore he was an enforcer of the light, but still refused to accept the fact that he was traveling with the enemy.
That doesn't surprise me, the whole enforcer bit. Ever since Kieran left, you have a few knuckleheads pretending they've been visited by the sun spirit, told to protect our people against the void. Which is crazy, because they can't even protect themselves, let alone an entire planet.
She scratched her chin.
But pushing her off a cliff seems personal. What provoked it? I mean, you did say that he was chasing her. Do they know each other?
Kai turned to me, then turned to Isla. Did she know? I doubt her mother said anything. I guess. It really didn't matter now, did it? She was a sex slave, I said bluntly. Ellery was a sex slave. Isla gasped.
An untouchable? In the manor.
Your mother knew, I defended. And she had no problem with it. And I would hope that. My girlfriend would have no problem with that either, I said, giving her a narrow look. It made Isla reconsider her next words, turning that sour look on her face more pleasant. I wouldn't stand for someone I cared for to have such hate against untouchables. She needed to show me that she wasn't one of them, on Gerald's level. A few unsettling seconds passed before she sighed, Isla crossing her arms over her chest.
Fucking bastards.
I should have been able to save her.
I'm sure if you could, you would, Lucian. Without a doubt. So stop beating yourself up about it.
Isla followed. I should have paid more attention all those times my father tried training me, I started, both girls interested in what I had to say. I didn't see the reason for it, but now I do. His excuse was protection, not that I was being bullied at school, anyway. He started when I was young, about 5 if I remember correctly. I remember my mother calling him crazy for it, but even she had no clue why he was so fixated on making me stronger. I admit, I wasn't worried about it in the slightest. I went through the trials to make him happy, thinking he'd leave me alone if I showed him just enough. But Kieran was never satisfied, and he started reading through that fake persona I fed him. He could train me all he liked, but it wouldn't click, 'cause honestly, I didn't care. I paused. I was young and clueless. Focused on leisure, not these countless bouts of pain through training. I felt like he was trying to tap something inside me, being so relentless about it. And I was right. So this just makes me feel even shitter for not trying. I know I'm able to be better. I could have saved Ellery if I had been more in tune with my light, I said, addressing Isla specifically. I remember what you told me, Isla. Think it, and it will manifest. I can't explain what had happened back there. She looked back at me with guilt, those beautiful eyes apologizing to me already.
Manifesting light doesn't come easy,
she admitted.
I might have overspoken, thinking a light god was capable of overcoming the struggles we do when we try to shape our energy. It takes time for us to learn those things, and it seems it's going to take time for you to learn them as well.
There are different devices, or specific talents in wielding the light. Wielding light in different fashions grants access to a plethora of possibilities that can be applied in battle.
Then why the hell am I just hearing about it? I asked. Gerald was making his skin hard with his light, right?
Gerald was using a rare device, using his energy to create a transparent hardening shield around specific areas of his body. Something used in the Benag class.
Benag class? You mean, there are different classes?
For these devices you can learn? Yeah.
Isla clarified.
It's easier to refer to when they are categorized.
I didn't want to overwhelm you, Lucian. What's important was the fundamentals, which is having a weapon to extend, stabilize, and reserve your light. It is true, learning these devices will give you an edge in battle, but useless if you cannot manage the basics of light wielding.
And since you're only a demigod, you might not need a weapon to reserve power, but you need it for stabilization against these shadows.
Isla clarified. But look back at my battle with Gerald, I addressed Kai. I know he was like 80 levels ahead of me, but he had an advantage.
You had one too, being a demigod, which by default, allows you access to godly power.
Kai interjected. Still, it wasn't a guaranteed win. I want to learn all of the classes, I said.
He may have a point there. The further you move along in your journey, the more likely you are to clash with elite shadow elves. That is, hoping we can get through this mess,
Isla said.
We will.
Just think about it, you can do all types of crazy things with light. You can learn to forge shields around your body like in the Benag class, cloak and teleport like in the Xavio class, or even summon clones like in the Emboi class,
Isla cheerfully added. If it's so powerful, then why don't you girls practice it?
I stick to my roots. I find power in my arrows, and they are good enough for me.
You'll learn of my tricks soon enough, Lucian,
Isla said confidently, giving me a cheeky grin. Speaking of power-ups, I said, turning to Isla. I noticed you've gotten a bit stronger since the last time we met. She gave me a wise look. Did I inspire you to become stronger, Isla?
Oh, how very observant and egotistical of you.
I smiled. Am I wrong?
Well, you're definitely steering toward the right direction. I got a power boost. From you.
Me? As in, me directly?
Crazy thing, my mother got a power boost, too. What a coincidence,
she sassed.
I must confess, I too got a power boost,
Kai mentioned, making Isla's eyes grow wide. Yeah, I'll co-sign to that. Wait a minute. First Kai, then Isla. And her mother. No. Does sleeping with girls make them more powerful? I blurted, charging out my feet.
Looks like it.
Isla smirked. Holy shit. Well, Isla, that means I'll make a dirty talker out of you yet. I laughed, Isla quick to chuck a pillow at me.
Idiot.
She grunted. What a crazy superpower. Then I thought, how I was already giving back to the community by impregnating all of these women. To know that my godly seed could also make them stronger, talk about added motivation.
It was a discovery that also took me by surprise, Lucian.
Kai said.
I am forever thankful.
I wonder if it stacks, I said, scratching my chin at the thought.
Wow, I'm actually shocked, Kai.
Isla said, turning to her.
That a warrior of the light would be so tempted.
Lucian, he tackled me down.
She boldly lied, tucking her head down and pinning her knees together, looking all innocent. Huh. What an answer. I mean, I could tell she was playing around, but still. It made Isla burst out in tears laughing, and I felt compelled to answer to this sarcastic side of Kai, rushing up to her. I took her by the arms, forcing Kai on her feet. You're making it sound like I take advantage of women. I cried. When you're the one who confessed your love to me.
All lies.
Aw, Kai, that's so sweet.
Isla cooed, battering her lashes, looking at the both of us awestruck. We can be open with each other, right, Kai? I grinned. Isla deserves to know. She's my girlfriend, after all.
If you're talking about the obvious, there is no need. Not to stroke your ego or anything, but it'd take a miracle for Kai to be traveling with you and not get swept in by your sexual allure.
Kai gasped.
That sounds so dirty.
I love the innocent look, but the both of us know you're lying, I teased.
I am not allowed to engage with.
Oh, right, the oath.
She gave Kai a devilish grin.
Let's see how long that lasts. Especially after 9 months.
Please, no more.
Kai said bashfully, that red on her face hitting her big time.
Let's go grab some dinner and think about a game plan in the morning.
Next scene. Crap, I was hoping that Kai would be more open-minded with Isla going against her own persona by sleeping with me. Granted, Isla only lost a bet. Kai had made a promise to the Sun Spirit. 2 totally different levels of commitment and complexity. I'd give Kai some more time. I felt like once she sees Isla hanging around me more, she'd start to crave the closeness with me. After all, we loved each other. I couldn't see why it was so wrong expressing that love, both publicly and behind closed doors. Strangely enough, I passed up on dinner. Not because I was picky, eating canned foods and all, but I wasn't hungry enough to eat. Instead, when the girls went off for dinner, I took the time to wash up, heading to our private bath, where I still couldn't get over how well endowed this bunker was. The difference was night and day compared to the outer parts of Rasani, a dystopia along those borders versus high class living within the capital. More specifically, the Baron's manor. I wanted to check up on my stats, so I thought trigger self-stats to bring up my panel. Triggered self-stats. Name, Lucian Reef. Race, human Ligerian. Class, Kiran's heir. Role, Light Guardian. Level, 20 experience, 10,064 20,000. Points to be allocated, 0. Agility, 57. Brawn, 57. Charisma, 48. Core range, 200. Health, 2,000. Light energy, 100% locked at max. Innate light specialty, none. Weapon, backbreaker unarmed. Weapon EXP, 70. Weapons durability, 32-100. Skills. Light classes learned, none. Light enabled abilities, weapon infuse, tethers weapon to user's light energy, thus empowering it. Slowly draws energy with use. Items. Light's core. I saw room for improvement, and after my match with Gerald, I felt like I needed to work harder. I came out of that bathroom feeling somewhat better, the power behind a hot steamy shower awakening me. I tried suppressing the memories of Ellery, stepping out of the bathroom with a towel around my waist, only to find myself thinking about her again. Could it be because of the apparition of her now sitting on my bed? Could be, but I wasn't hallucinating about ghosts, not with one appearing this clear through my baffled eyes. I blinked twice as hard. There was no way my mind was playing tricks on me. Right? I hadn't just walked out of this underground shower, sealed away from the rest of the world, to find Ellery, sitting on my bed, wearing nothing but shadows over her skin. She was exposed, my heart racing, my breathing shot. I was fucking shaking inside, my mouth hanging on the floor, trying to erase this well-seasoned guilt trip. My eyes were bulging out of my skull, trying to make sense out of what I was seeing. I mean, she looked like Ellery, just without the hat on, showing off her fluffy blonde cat ears. And sitting pretty dead center on her forehead, this strange black shard emitting waves of dark energy. But I thought that Ellery wasn't a shadow elf, according to my dad's pendant. Her presence begged me to move to one direction and then another. I was scared, but happy at the same time, my conflicted mind pulling me from all sorts of emotions. I didn't know what to make of her being there, right here, right now. My thoughts kept my approach hostage, and her timid, frightened demeanor kept me speechless. Until finally, words came out of her lips, with tears streaming down her eyes. She closed herself off from me, folding her hands together before she apologized.
I'm sorry, Lucian.
The end. Thank you for listening to The Light Prince of Ligera, by Troy Maverick. Please support the author by checking out his other haremlit books in the description below, or by sharing this video with other haremlit readers.